All cultivators aspire to one day achieve the status of emperor. But after becoming a great emperor, I couldn't find any joy because I discovered that the path to immortality is severed. Even the once invincible Qing emperor perished on the path to immortality, refusing to give up. This is my 7th attempt on the path to immortality. Amidst the attention of the crowd, auspicious clouds gathered, calamities dispersed, and a figure holding a giant halberd emerged from the passage, standing alone in the air. Is it the wrong time, or the wrong place, that's preventing me from reaching immortality? To be honest, even I, with my unwavering belief, am starting to doubt. Can one truly become immortal in this world? But at that moment, a faint voice suddenly echoed in my mind. A voice pleading for help, and unbelievably, it came from my own soul. My eyes narrowed slightly. Who is it? How can someone tamper with their own soul? At the next moment, a powerful spiritual pressure swept across the entire continent, causing countless people to kneel directly under this pressure. Even the powerful great sage-level experts were all restless at this moment. This is the soul pressure from the most powerful emperor in the world. At this moment, my eyes opened wide. Countless divine lights flashed, seeing through the past and future, understanding cause and effect, searching for the secrets deep within my soul. Just a moment later, I retracted my divine thoughts, a hint of strangeness showing on my face. It turned out to be the Earth's call for help. No wonder it could resonate deep within my soul. I instantly understood everything, because I am a traveler through time and space. Hence I could receive the call for help from the great path of Earth, only the place on Earth where even cultivation is impossible. What kind of crisis could it encounter? After arriving at the Tianyuan continent, I realized how barren Earth is, not even worth the invasion of the strong. Could it be that human-made nuclear weapons are threatening Earth? Of course, doubts aside, I still have to go. Then I started deducing the coordinates of Earth. It's time to go back to the mother planet. With a clear mind, I took a step forward immediately. All the saints sensed the aura of the great emperor through the heavenly way, feeling deeply moved, and respectfully bid farewell as the great emperor departed the Earth at the same time. Look, what's that in the sky? A spaceship? No, it looks more like an aircraft carrier. It's like a fleet from a science fiction novel. People on Earth looked up in horror to see a dense cluster of starlights appearing in the sky. Those were actually warships, with propulsion thrusters emitting beams of light, carrying terrifying energy. The warships lined up in a row, steadily approaching Earth. At the peak of Mount Tai, a few middle-aged men dressed in camouflage military uniforms stood inside the command room. A soldier in charge of monitoring reported the observations. The news from the lighthouse country is consistent. This time, the invading outsiders are driving warships and seem to be following a technological route. Upon hearing this news, the others immediately became extremely serious. An elderly soldier with a serious look in his eyes spoke. Have the trench been crossed? Do they harbor hostility towards us? None of our messages have been answered, and they only repeated one sentence. The elderly soldier hurriedly asked, what did they send? Conquer, submit, but not to die. The older soldier's eyes flickered slightly. Then he said somewhat awkwardly, it means they also want to conquer the Earth. Upon hearing this, the others' expressions immediately turned grave. Someone immediately said, there's no need to worry too much. Ever since our Earth started to mutate, foreign races have been trying to conquer us, but with our domain in place, they can't even get in. The older soldier's expression turned serious. This time is different. These are foreign tribes taking the technological path. Some people were puzzled. What's wrong with the technological route? It's still unable to get through. Confused, sighed the older soldier. The race that can develop technological power is destined to have weak life evolution. Maybe just like us, with individual strength not being very powerful. Don't forget about the mysterious field on our Earth, which only targets strong individual organisms, while the weak ones won't encounter much resistance. Upon hearing this, everyone felt a sense of impending danger. Before long, a scientist entered the conference room, holding a report in his hand. With a solemn expression, he spoke. According to our observations, the technological capabilities of the other party should far surpass ours. Their ability to traverse the stars is something beyond what Earth possesses. Moreover, based on our calculations of their propulsion energy density, it should be 1,000 times greater than our current rockets. The senior soldier interrupted. Just tell me, do we stand a chance of defeating them if they bring their warships to Earth? The scientist was stunned for a moment, then wore a wry smile and said, it's impossible to defeat them. With our current technological capabilities, we can't even hold them off for a day. The older soldier's lips trembled suddenly. Can't even hold them off for a day? The scientist clenched his fists, his eyes filled with a sense of powerlessness and unwillingness. Among the fleet of ships beyond the Earth's starry sky, A strange-looking alien dressed like an octopus approached a figure and reported, "Captain, Earth has launched a weapon at us." The figure addressed as the captain calmly spoke, "What level of weaponry?" "According to the analysis, it belongs to the radioactive nuclear weapons that we abandoned 10,000 years ago. The damage from this weapon poses no threat to our fleet," the octopus-clad foreign soldier said, a hint of disdainful smile on his face. The captain couldn't help but sneer sarcastically. "Ha ha, Earth has truly fallen into desolation. It used to be one of the top 10 races, but now there are no powerful evolvers, not even decent technology. This gives us the perfect opportunity," the octopus soldier exclaimed excitedly. "The mysterious domain of Earth only hinders the evolutionists, but our clan does not follow the path of physical evolution, so the obstruction to us will be minimal. When the time comes, as long as we bring our technology to Earth, those natives will never be able to stop us." Upon hearing these words, the captain revealed a hint of superiority. "All races only think that our technological clan relies solely on external forces. Little do they know the weakness of flesh and blood. Only mechanical ascension is the strongest. By the way, how is the research on the Earth domain going?" Speaking of this octopus soldier, he immediately showed excitement. "We have come to a general conclusion that our soldiers will be suppressed to varying degrees when entering the battlefield. Their bodies will be seriously injured but not life-threatening. As long as they take the healing potion, they will recover immediately." "Good. Transmit my orders. Launch a full-scale attack on Earth according to the plan." With a sweeping gesture, the captain directly opened the fleet communication channel, and the command instantly reached everyone's ears. In an instant, a cheer went up from the Great Wall of Fleet in the universe. A wave of energy spread out from the ship's body, obliterating everything around it. Pluto, the planet beyond Earth, exploded into pieces in the universe in a wave of energy. In the meantime, Earth, *******, the other side is starting to attack, and our nuclear weapons, it seems, haven't even broken the other side's defense. At this time, all the leaders in the command rooms of the countries of the Earth felt that the sky was falling. The weapons that they relied on for their pride and joy couldn't even cause a single bit of damage to the other side. Of course, it's only been half an hour. More than that, they felt that the sky was not only falling, only to see that the vanguard of the opposing fleet had actually crossed the galaxy and arrived at the mysterious field power of Earth. Even above the fleet, there were already outcasts who had tried to cross the field force in order to test it. The next thing that happened was something that completely made mankind completely despair. Not only did the foreigner who had crossed the field not die, he even came to life after taking some kind of healing potion. With the device it was even possible to see that the outcasts on the fleet were already going wild. As if to the multitudes of the Earth, death is pronounced. At this time, there are even foreigners who have begun to put up a declaration of conquest toward the Earth. "I come, I conquer. You have only to submit. Remember our pact. We are taboo." However, just before their words had completely fallen, suddenly, it was as if space and time had been stood still. Subsequently, both Earth and the fleet side saw a horrifying scene that they could hardly forget. One could only see a golden avenue that seemed to be on fire, spanning out from the depths of the starry sky, with Tao rules surging and runes flashing on it, bright and dazzling. In just the blink of an eye, it arrived in the Milky Way, above the cluster of battleships, and even more surprising, one could only see a radiant figure standing on top, surrounded by the sun and moon, surrounded by stars, and escorted by the 4 elephants such as the true dragon and the vermilion bird. Mysterious to the extreme. Chapter 3, The Power of a Kick. Who is it? Dare to override our warships? Looking at that figure, the exotic foreigner also finally came back to his senses and opened his mouth in a somewhat annoyed yet terrified manner. "It's not clear. We counted no information on this figure among the strongest of the races in the universe." The octopus soldier took out his instrument and opened his mouth while frantically querying, "How much of a fighter is he?" The captain couldn't help but speak up. In their technological clan, they had a set of their own statistical data references for evolved individual powerhouses to use in their assessment of their enemies. 100 million. No. 10 billion. No. 100 billion. A trillion. A trillion? There seems to be something wrong with the machine. It doesn't show the opponent's combat power anymore. The octopus soldier watched as the machine numbers kept pulsing, apparently somewhat incoherent, but he didn't blame it on his opponent's great strength. Instead, they blamed the machine for the error. After all, they hadn't detected such a powerful evolver since their machines were made. "Humph," the captain grunted. "So what if it's powerful?" They, the Techno One, were no soft touch. Utilizing his voice transmission technology, he transmitted his words to the side of the figure. "Hurry up and leave, or don't blame my clan for being impolite." With their PAX technology, it wouldn't be hard to do that. The figure, however, seemed to be ignoring it. He was seen gently lifting his foot and dropping it down towards the group of battleships. In an instant, the foot was like a heavenly divine mountain buckling down. Countless runes were flashing, the great Tao was trembling, and the universe's emptiness was shattering. The might was simply terrifying and shocking to the ages. The original energy surging. In the starry sky rampant worship group. In this foot, at this moment is like a drop in the ocean. Trampling with your feet. This is trying to humiliate us. Do you really think that our technological civilization is just for show? Fire on all cylinders. Use the sublime weapons, the great Tao weapons, and kill him. The captain, at that moment, understood at once that the other party had come for them. His entire body roared as if he felt a great crisis, and it was as if he was being pressed by 10,000 divine mountains in his heart. The original hunter, in the face of this kick descending from the Golden Avenue, directly turned into prey. Just, their counterattacks, as if they were Earth's counterattacks against them in the first place, paled in comparison. The moment the two made contact, the originally dark starry sky bloomed with bright fireworks. It was the glow of the battleship's destruction that created the fireworks. The fleet that linked together like a steel wall, bloomed one after the other. Under a glow, an infinite number of stars went out, except for the Milky Way, and of course the tiny swarm of battleships. And at this point, no one was more shocked than the Earth, watching the scene of the leaders of the countries eating. In their astronomical telescopes and satellite telescopes, the images were captured. Only a golden avenue so brilliant that it was about to blind them appeared. And then, immediately afterward, it was such a plain, unassuming kick. Just stopped away all that alien fleet that was all set to destroy the planet. The foreign warships just gave up all of them? In Kyushu, in the Taishan war room, the older soldier stared at the image in front of him in a bit of a daze, his entire body frozen in place. Everyone present at this time thought the same as him. The heart remains nothing but shock. 1 second, Earth viewed the alien battleships as an extinction crisis. In the next second, the protagonist of the extinction crisis was instead exterminated. How could they not be surprised by the magnitude of this fall? Wait, you guys, look at this frame. There seems to be a silhouette in this golden light. The technician in charge of broadcasting the footage exclaimed in shock as he cut the frame to a pair of images. Could it be that he's the one who destroyed the foreign battleship? Everyone's gazes, in unison, looked at the figure in the picture. What kind of existence is this? The power of one man can destroy a battleship. Those present couldn't help but marvel. The person who can have such divine might. Can it be that it's a legendary god? The older soldier, looking dead at the figure in the picture, muttered. In the meantime, I didn't think that Earth could really be looked at by an alien race. A white figure appeared beyond the Earth with an odd smile on its face, and this person was none other than Su Pingan, who had come from the Tianyuan continent. The extraterrestrial race that took the path of science and technology was naturally exterminated by Pingan Su. Of course, the race is to blame for being so ostentatious. Before Su Pingan even arrived, he had already heard on the way that they were threatening to exterminate Earth. Therefore, it also went out by the foot. But is this the crisis for which Earth called me back? In his opinion, although this exotic foreign race controlled a powerful technological force, it was still too weak after all. But the next moment, Su Pingan's gaze, then, looked toward Earth. Earth actually has a field at the level of a great emperor? At this moment, a trace of movement finally appeared on his face. As an Earthling, he was well aware of what Earth could do. This domain is a bit interesting, that it can block strong people outside of Earth's life. That is to say, the person who set up this domain is an Earthling? The runes flickered in Pingan Su's eyes as he saw through the construction of the field with a single glance. I wonder, do I still count as life on Earth? He smiled bashfully and immediately took a step out towards the field. A field at the level of a great emperor. Not to mention ordinary beings, even in existence at the level of a substate would have to pay a heavy price for breaking in hard. However, this was simply fearless to Pingan Su, who had entered and exited the path to immortality 7 times. Only, the suppression that was supposed to happen didn't happen. Su Pingan directly crossed the field, somewhat surprised. Recognize me? It wasn't just the field that surprised him, though. When Su Pingan's gaze looked toward Earth, the eyes don't have a look in them, because at this moment, the Earth, in his eyes, had unexpectedly undergone a radical change. These changes, however, may not be apparent to Earthlings, but it could not be hidden from the great emperor. Next moment, his large hand snapped. Only the Earth's heavenly heart seal was directly clutched in the palm of his hand, and then he gained insight into the Earth's information. He couldn't help but frown, because, surprisingly, he realized that the top of the heavenly heart seal was chaotic, and there was simply very little information about the Earth. It was as if everything was erased. However, Su Pingan also roughly understood from it that the Earth he had previously survived on was not his true likeness. Earth, in the past, seemed to be the center of a very powerful world, comparable to the Tian Yuan Great World. It's only because of some special reason that it's the way it is today. No wonder the Earth attracted the foreign lands to snatch it. The Earth seems to be going through a cycle, as if it were a phoenix rising from the ashes, and is now in the stage of being reborn by fire, and will once again return to a time of strength. This was something that even Su Pingan was a bit surprised by. Of course, he was but a mortal when he left Earth. The secrets of the Earth were beyond his knowledge. Just, the heavenly heart seal is all chaos. So who's calling me back? Not waiting for Su Pingan to return to his senses. In his mind, the voice actually sounded again once more. This time, Su Pingan, who heard this voice, was completely frozen, because, surprisingly, he awakened. System. Chapter 4, Reverse System? Rookie Mission? Host detected. In System Area, the system is beginning to bind. Binding successful. This system is the strongest reversal system. It can help the host to become the strongest against all odds. Is the system turned on? With a series of sounds, Su Pingan's face could not help but appear odd. System, that old and time-honored name. If it wasn't for the fact that Su Pingan still had some influence, I'm afraid that he would have long ago sent a divine thought and strangled him. I've become a great emperor and the system is just coming? As an earthling, Su Pingan had naturally read the novel. The traveler must have a golden finger. Even if he traveled as a maggot, he would have a poop system stunt. He was aware of it. But terriers are terriers, and the reality is otherwise. Because, he had traveled for over 1,000 years, but he had never had a golden finger. One became a great emperor all by oneself, one step at a time. What golden fingers, in his opinion, were all made up by those dog authors. But now, to tell himself that he has a system? Even after becoming a great emperor, Su Pingan, who had long been ancient and unperturbed, did not know, at this moment, whether he wanted to laugh or should curse. But, laughing and cursing is just your own obsession. But when he was suddenly given a system, Su Pingan had to take care of it. He took a big swing. In front of one's face, a colorful point of light then appeared, with a mysterious Tao content flickering on it. And this was the system that Pingan Su had awakened. At this moment, his eyes opened and closed, and countless divine lights flashed, wanting to penetrate the secrets of the system in front of him. As I expected, the system is indeed a product of the derivation of rules and the great Tao. It's just that, I can't believe I can't see through the source of the system? Su Pingan's brows slowly furrowed. Even he couldn't see through it, which meant that the other party's understanding of the great Tao was probably far above his own. Interesting. At this moment, Su Pingan's eyes surged brightly. Now that he had become an emperor, he was invincible across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Even a single gaze could span 10,000 miles and exterminate a party of foreign domains. It could be said that there was nothing in this world that he could not see through. If there was, then this person, chances were, was a great emperor that he didn't know about. Or, immortal. Su Pingan preferred the latter. Because, it wasn't as if he hadn't come into contact with an emperor-level powerhouse. But, he had never met anyone who could match himself. When he himself was not yet a great emperor, he could already compete with great emperors. After certifying as an emperor, he had long been invincible for many years. It was also only the world-destroying thunderbolt that startled him when he blasted the road to immortality that made his blood boil. If the other party is an immortal, wouldn't it be, then, possible to know how to become immortal? Su Pingan's desire to lose his exploration of all things due to becoming an emperor was finally hooked. Turn it on. He didn't hesitate to speak. So what if the system is a trap? As long as there was a glimmer of hope of becoming an immortal, it would be worth his while to explore. And, that even if the other person is stronger than he or she is, it doesn't matter. Instead of being trapped in the great emperor realm for the rest of his life, it would be better to fight with the other party. And even if he died, then he would be willing to do so. Of course, Su Pingan also had absolute confidence in himself. In 1,000 years, he has never lost a single battle. If there was an immortal in the world, he would seek a battle without the other party's hand. Ding! Congratulations to the host for opening the system. Detected the aura of the host's location starting to revive. Please ask the host to choose whether or not to accept the newbie package. The next moment, that was like a plot scene in a novel. The system is starting to give out newbie packs. Su Pingan spoke faintly. Accept. In an instant, a series of items that appeared before his eyes. 10,000 feet in the air, above the clouds. Su Pingan sat on a plate stream and lightly tapped these things. The first thing that caught my eye was a glass vessel. Upon opening the cap, a fresh scent came through. The system's prompt panel, too, floated above the bottle's contents. Advanced Qi and Blood Pillet can increase the power of Qi and Blood after taking it, and is the best aid for those who have just stepped into the path of cultivation. Next, a fruit. S-Class Mutant Fruit. After taking it, you can obtain the Body of Thunder, which can manipulate lightning and turn into thunder. Fear of seawater. Caution required. Then there were 10 stones that emitted a faint aura. Golden Winged Rock Breathing Method, one of the top breathing methods in the world. After practicing this method, you can be like the Golden Winged Rock, with unlimited magical power, and travel thousands of miles. After Su Pingon finished tapping with anticipation, there was instant silence. This newbie package is really a new package. As the name suggests, Su Pingon, System, what is my realm? System, started testing. Conclusion, Great Emperor Realm. Pingon Su, then who used the newbie pack you gave you? System, a newcomer who steps into cultivation all the way. Pingon Su, so, was it given to the wrong person? System, detection in progress. No errors. Su Pingon, then my realm? System, Great Emperor Realm. Su Pingon, you know I'm in the Great Imperial Realm and you're giving me this garbage? System, host please take back what you just said. These aren't trash. The pills are all fine pills hard to find in the world. And the evolution fruit is the highest quality evolutionary opportunity on Earth at the moment. The Golden Winged Rock breathing method is also one of the most powerful breathing methods in the world. Good. Think I'm a one-step 100-meter great with no insight? Su Pingon immediately waved his hand, and from his storage realm, he took out a bottle of pills. The moment it opens, only to see that inside, a silhouette that looked like a child, with runes densely covered on it. The fragrance of the medicine was like a liquid, floating around it, and the moment this elixir appeared, it tried to escape. However, but Su Pingon had a thought that fixed him in place. System, take a look at what kind of elixir is this. System, tested as a transformable imperial elixir. The Biobirth Creation Elixir. Pingon Su, then tell me, is what I was given trash? System, look at this again, only to see Pingon Su strike again. The next moment, a fiery red to the extreme feather appeared in his hand. Only the moment he appeared, the space around him trembled as countless shadows continued to emerge from the feathers. System, tested as the feather of the true phoenix. It contains the breathing method of the true phoenix clan. Su Pingon, the Golden Winged Rock is tainted with a trace of the phoenix bloodline, and it has already asked for the top races in the world. So the true phoenix clan breathing technique, compared to the Golden Winged Rock breathing technique, who is the trash? System, Pingon Su, then how about you take a look at this emperor's physique, and not the power of thunder brought about by that fruit of evolution of yours? System, the godless body of the 10,000 calendars. Su Pingon, then tell me. The words were not yet finished. The system then had snatched the answer. It's not junk. The gift packs that this system delivers are all in line with what you are currently using. Su Pingon frowned, his palms moving slightly, unable to resist wanting to pinch the system. Just then, the system spoke again, issuing a newbie mission, asking the host to punch the face of the rich and handsome Tangshan on top of the class reunion. This mission cannot be refused or avoided. Failure penalty. System disappears. Successful rewards. Receive special prizes that match your realm. Chapter 5, The Great Dream of the Ages. Class reunion? Punching Don Hill in the face? At this moment, the Emperor Realm's Su Pingon's brain seemed to be down for a moment. It wasn't so much the lack of functioning as it was being pulled into the memory of the year he turned 20 by those too long ago words. He himself is more than 1,000 years old. This system's mission, even let himself go to the class reunion, and to go and punch his classmates in the face. As for that Tangshan, Su Pingon pondered for half a day before finding out that there was such a person from Tangshan among his classmates. It was a classmate from my own senior year. There was a bit of a conflict in the beginning because they both liked a female classmate. The other party often oppresses him or her because of his or her privileged family. So, at that time, Su Pingon's biggest dream was to make a lot of money and hit Tangshan hard in the face. However, with the crossing, the matter was long forgotten. It's just that it's over 1,000 years ago now. According to the Earthlings' life expectancy of just 100 years, the grass on their graves is. No, there are tall buildings built on top of graves, right? System, what time is it? Su Pingon sensed something wrong with the system. System, Earth Calendar, 2025. 2025? Su Pingon finally understood why the system was out of place. It was the year 2024 when he crossed over himself. In other words, the system was treating him as if he was in 2025 and hadn't yet crossed over to himself. No, as soon as Su Pingon spoke, he seemed to have sensed something. At that moment, he raised his hand and grabbed it, only to see countless threads in the void, and was grabbed by one, with the power of the rules surging on it, and countless runes fluttering. This was the means of a great emperor, a direct insight into the power of rules. A moment later, The look of some surprise opened, this place a year. The Tianyuan continent of me but has been the past 1,000 years? Turns out it wasn't the system that got it wrong. Instead, I came to Earth a year later. At the level of a great emperor, one would already be able to step into the realm of time. Still, just stepping in doesn't change it. The only one who can do this is the legendary immortal. At this moment, the surprise that the Earth brought to Su Pingon had far exceeded expectations. But, right now, Su Pingon was more concerned. If only for a year. That own loved ones. Is it not still in the world? Next moment, Su Pingon slowly closed his eyes. The powerful divine thoughts were like a ripple in a lake at the moment, slowly spreading to the entire world. He thought to himself that 1,000 years had passed, and his thoughts of his loved ones had long since faded with the passage of time. But at the moment of learning that a loved one may still be alive, Su Pingon realized that the thoughts had not faded away, but had been hidden in his heart. The world only knew the power of the ancient great emperors, but not the loneliness of the great emperors. A long lifespan brings with it a lifelessness. A few moments later, found it. His face showed a long-lost and heartfelt joy. In the meantime, Earth, Jojo, Jiangfu, inside a dark and cramped alley, a teenager dressed in black, his hand grasping the head of a corpse covered in blood, his eyes showing a hint of satisfaction. However, a few moments later, too little, soul power is still too little. Even if you use your soul instead of soul power, it's still no match for the soul master world. I don't even know when my realm will recover. System, is this the way you told me that after returning to Earth, I can break through the sealed Dolua the fastest? The teenager's face was filled with impatience. And that's when a voice suddenly came out of the teenager's mind. Host, please rest assured. The Earth still needs a little time to slowly recover. After a certain time, there will be a large number of evolutionary opportunities, and will definitely allow you to break through the sealed Dolua. The teenager narrowed his eyes. The promises made by the system had never been broken, and he had no choice but to believe them. His name was Tang Shan, an Earthling, after crossing over to the Soul Master world a year ago. Then the system was awakened. Relying on the system, in the Soul Master world, he not only possessed the top-tier dual-born martial souls, blue silver grass and Haotian hammer, even more so, he has a wife with a 10,000-year soul ring. Under the guidance of the system, he had even reached the realm of the Soul Master continent's peak realm of the sealed Dolua. However, the last enemy he faced in the Soul Master world was beyond this realm. In search of the fastest breakthrough, the system gave him another option, which was to return to Earth. Tang Shan, who had the assistance of the system and quickly broke through the realm along the way, naturally had no doubts and directly chose to return to Earth. What's more, he was originally from Earth. It was only when he returned that he realized that his own cultivation, surprisingly, had not followed him back from the crossing. Not only that, Earth was not suitable for his cultivation system. It instantly knocked him back. Well, the system, at this point, gave a solution. Then, they would plunder human souls, refine them into soul power, and combine them with Earth's aura to cultivate. But apparently, the results weren't that dramatic. System, isn't there any other way for me to recover my strength quickly? With me in such a state, even if an evolutionary opportunity appeared on Earth, I wouldn't necessarily be able to snatch it. Tang Shan tossed the soul power drained corpse aside and asked while wiping his hands. Hunting strong people brings soul power gains that are 1,000 times stronger than ordinary people. The voice in his head sounded again. What do you mean? You mean killing those evolved people? As the Earth changed, humans naturally mutated along with it, and those who benefit from it, humans call them evolvers. It had also been quite some time since Tang Shan had crossed back over. Nature has an understanding of the current landscape of the planet. Ring, ring, ring. At that moment, a cell phone ringtone suddenly rang. Donaldson fished his cell phone out of his pocket. It's a text message. Tang Shan frowned, but, nonetheless, opened it and read it. Only, while he was looking at it, he couldn't help but sneer. Class reunion? Interesting, the Earth is turning upside down, and you're still in the mood for a class reunion? What a bunch of young people who don't know the heights of heaven. However, just as he was about to close the boring text message, suddenly, the end of the message caught his attention. Interesting, inside the classmates. Surprisingly, someone has become an evolutionary? Earth, Jojo, Jiangfu, not far from the Su family on the street. Su Pingon walked above the street with a calm expression and his arms crossed. No cultivation was utilized, and all the clothes were changed into modern clothing. He was as mortal as a mortal can be, walking step by step through the bustling crowd. The heaven and the earth, the adversary of all things, and the light of day, the passerby of 100 generations. Su Pingon looked at the still familiar streets and skyscrapers and couldn't help but feel a lot of emotions in his heart. lamenting the millennia of years that had gone by before. It was a mere blink of an eye. When I look back again, I can still return home at the end of the light. For a moment, Su Pingan's realm that was originally moving couldn't help but loosen slightly for a moment. Although Earth is not an immortal world, there is also no immortal substance of the immortal world. But Su Pingan's realm just loosened up. It was as if he had embarked on a path where he could step into the immortal realm of everlasting life without using the immortal realm. It seems that after 1,000 years of conquest, traveling through the red dust is in turn a more distinctive experience for me. Might as well take this opportunity. Su Pingan was enlightened. The moment the words fell, he lifted a finger and tapped his forehead. Dream big for all time. At this moment, all the living beings of the entire earth seemed to freeze for a moment. It was as if the soul was missing, but it was quickly restored. The crowd didn't notice anything unusual either. While at this moment, Su Pingan, however, had a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. In just now, he had taken the divinity of his soul and used a secret method to already completely seal it. After becoming an emperor, Su Pingan's character had naturally changed long ago. In his eyes, there is only the Lord's mastery over all living things and the peace of heaven. There are big feelings, but no small ones. That divine emotion is closer to the indifference of the heavenly Tao. Since they are traveling the world, naturally they cannot bring their divinity with them. Therefore, what Su Pingan did was to seal his divinity with a secret method, allowing his humanity to amplify infinitely. In a nutshell, this makes him, well, more of a normal person. Of course, it was a normal person with the cultivation of a great emperor. When that's done, without realizing it, Su Pingan also arrived in front of his home. Chapter 6, A Promise from the Great Emperor. No one in the world can harm her. Chapter 6, Homecoming. River City, Huey Town. Inside a stale old house. Sister, I don't want to go to daycare. A powdered 6 or 7-year-old girl, gripping the large doorframe, looked at the woman in front of her with a reluctant look on her face. Sulu, sister has work to do today, so she can't stay home with you, so you'll go to the custodial center for the day, and I'll pick you up then. The sister called the woman, about 10 or 78 years old, tall, wearing a sweatshirt and a duck-tongued hat, touched the little girl's fleshy cheeks with gentle eyes. But mommy and daddy are home? I can get mom and dad to stay with me. The little girl pointed to the inside of the room, revealing a face that said you can rest assured. Nonsense. My sister glared at the other. How are mom and dad going to stay with you now that they're in a coma? After all was said and done, sister glanced at the time and said somewhat anxiously, time is fast running out. I'm going to report to the team. Sulu good. Follow sister. After saying that, he was going to take Suli's hand. Sister, is it true that you don't have to take me to daycare as long as I have someone with me? Sula hastily dodged away from his sister's hand and asked with wide eyes. Sulu, stop fooling around. We're the only 4 people in our family. Who else can accompany you? My sister grasped the air for a moment and frowned in disbelief. Yes, Sula said while magically pulling out an Ultraman toy from inside his pocket. Look, there's a toy that my brother gave me. He represents my brother. He can accompany me. Just, when Sulu mentioned the word brother, as if she had been touched by some fuse, her sister grabbed the Ultraman toy. Sulu, don't you remember that I told you that person can't be mentioned anymore? But, Sulu was just about to open his mouth. My sister threw the Ultraman toy directly onto the concrete outside in the yard. There was a clunking sound. Ultraman was quartered. No buts. That man. Don't mention it again. This one voice of my sister's was tremendous. Sulu looked at the toy being smashed, as well as his sisters yelling, and suddenly his person froze for a moment. A few moments later, tears just welled up inside his eyes. However, Sulu unexpectedly did not cry out. He held back his tears and said, I see. Sister. My sister took one look at the little girl's pitiful form. Apparently it's also softened. She walked over and took Suli's hand. If it's a toy, I'll accompany you to buy another one. Sulu nodded, but his eyes were dead set on the Ultraman in the yard. Sister squatted down, wiped her tears, and said with some heartache, just now, it was sister who spoke a little too heavily. Don't take it to heart. I didn't mean to scold you. Also, my sister really has something important to do today, so she can't stay with you, and there's no one at home to take care of you. So just before she could finish her sentence, Sulu, however, suddenly widened his eyes, as if he had seen something incredible. Somewhat surprised, he spoke, brother, only. Those 2 words, however, almost made my sister blow up again. Nice guy, just lost his temper and told you to stop saying those 2 words. How dare you mention it now? Sulu, you really think that your sister won't teach you a lesson after mom and dad pass out, don't you? My sister stood up at once and raised her palm. If the Su family hadn't suffered a change of heart, she was not a gentle master. Instead of being afraid, Sula pointed his finger at Su Li's back. It's brother. It's really brother. You still say that? My sister was in a rage at this time. Where did she have the heart to look at the little girl's exaggerated expression? And immediately was about to raise her palm and hit her hard on her buttocks. But just then, it's been a long time. Su Xin. Su Lu. A man's voice rang out. Su Xin immediately froze. This freeze was not a result of being startled by the sudden appearance of a voice. Rather, it was because the voice, surprisingly, felt familiar to her. And it couldn't be more familiar. Her body stiffened a bit as she slowly turned to look at the man who had opened his mouth, only to see that the other young man, dressed in ordinary clothes but with a very vigorous essence, was standing in the yard, holding the smashed Ultraman in his hand, and looking towards the sisters with a smile on his face. Brother! Brother! Sulu was the first to react and jumped straight to the man's side. At this moment, even the man who had faced enemies from all over the world and who would not even frown at the sea of swords and mountains of blood, could not help but be moved. The sea of that ancient, wave-free heart had long since turned over into a monstrous wave. With undisguised doting in his eyes, he took the girl in his arms. But just then, Pingon Su, what are you doing back here? The sister who was called Su Xin by the man, however, stared at him with a single, vicious word. The man was obviously a little confused. I didn't realize what was going on when my sister, whom I hadn't seen for 1,000 years, held such hatred for me. Had he done something wrong to her? That's right, the man was naturally Su Pingon, who had rushed over. Not waiting for him to continue speaking, the cell phone rang suddenly. It's Su Hsin's. She rushed to the phone. Captain, another person killed on South Street? Or was it an evolutionary? Good. Understood. I'll be right there. After Su Xin finished speaking, he immediately glanced at Su Lu. Only, at this moment, Su Lu, like a pendant, was firmly hanging on Su Pingon, a look of total refusal to leave. Su Xin gritted her teeth. Su Pingon, however, seemed to understand her thoughts as he spoke. Leave Su Lu to me. No one in this world can harm her. Obviously, Su Xin was torn, and it was obvious that he didn't want to give his sister to this brother in front of him at all. As if it was even more dangerous to give her to him. If those old antiquities of the Tianyuan continent saw this scene, I guess one is going to be jaw-dropping. This was a hallowed great emperor opening his mouth to protect a person. You're a mere mortal and you don't believe me? If anything happens to her, I won't let you go even if I die. In the end, Su Xin compromised. He glanced at the time, and then looked at Su Pingon, so he had to put down harsh words, and then, directly left. Is it because I've restrained my aura as if I were immortal, so she doesn't trust me to protect Sulu? Su Pingon explained himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to exert his breath. Rather, as a great emperor, a wisp of his aura that he casually revealed would be fatal to mortals. Therefore, he intentionally used 999 seals to forcefully suppress his cultivation and breath, ensuring that he wouldn't leak a single trace. Although, as a great emperor, he had extremely strict control over his own aura, but he was afraid that if he saw his loved ones, his emotions would fluctuate and a wisp of breath would flow out, causing unnecessary trouble. Of course, although there were many of these seals, wanting to undo them was a matter of Su Pingon's single thought, and it wouldn't affect him at all to make a move. With that, Su Pingon plucked a strand of hair and threw it with the wind. The hair then turned into a golden light and vanished into the void. In the next moment, it caught up with Su Xin, who was already far away, and landed on top of her. Su Pingon, who had done all this, immediately satisfied himself and looked towards his youngest sister. Su Lu. Chapter 7 System Tasks. Mom and Dad are the ones who kept going to look for you after you ran away from home that time, and then heard about the mudslide at Lungfu Mountain, and have been in a coma ever since. Sula took Su Pingon's hand and walked into the house, and at the same time, began to narrate everything that had happened at home. Running away from home? Su Pingon's dusty memories seemed to have been lifted once again. Right. It's because you ran away from home and Mom and Dad went looking for you that something happened. Otherwise, sister, why would you hate you? As Sula spoke, he hurriedly whispered, at home, my sister never even lets me mention you. At this moment, Su Pingon came to a sudden realization. No wonder that Su Xin looked like she wanted to eat herself. Back then, Su Pingon remembered around the same time that he had an argument with his mom and dad over a matter. In the end, it was also a matter of youthful exuberance until it got to the point of running away from home. Of course, that's just a lip service. It's just gaslighting. But who knew that Su Pingon hadn't gotten very far from home before he had an accident, and his entire body had traveled to the Tianyuan continent. Su Pingon immediately felt somewhat indebted. I didn't realize that this was how it happened. And that's when Sulu also brought Su Pingan to his mom and dad's room. After opening the door to the room, the first thing you see are two neatly arranged hospital beds. On it were lying two middle-aged men and women. Looking at their eyebrows and the three sisters of the Su family, there were a few similarities. There was also a variety of medical equipment for monitoring at the bedside. Looking at the foreign language on it, it should be imported and not expensive. Mom and dad were able to get picked up from the hospital and take care of themselves at home. All thanks to my sister getting a good job. Speaking of this, a knowing look appeared on Su Li's face. So brother, can you not blame sister? This year has been very hard for her. Without asking too many questions, Su Pingan could think of what Su Xin had gone through this year. He nodded. By the way, what kind of job did your sister get? Since you are experiencing the Red Earth. Su Pingan naturally did not use his divine thoughts to directly observe Su Xin's every move. He would prefer to talk to his sister more like a regular person. I'm not really sure, but it seems to catch bad guys. After saying that, he also spoke quietly. I often hear, she said inside the phone, she caught whoever, and I don't know if it's dangerous or not. Su Pingan couldn't help but laugh. I'm back, so she's safe. Now that he's back, naturally he won't put his family in danger. So, at the time Su Xin went out he then left his backhand on Su Xin. Unless a great emperor comes in person. Otherwise, it was impossible for anyone to touch her sister in the slightest. Of course, even the presence of a great emperor himself would be enough to preserve his sister. Brother, do you think mom and dad won't wake up? Sulu walked over to the hospital bed, looked at his parents, and spoke with some difficulty. Su Pingan touched Su Li's head, and the latter continued. In fact, there's no need to comfort me. I heard what my sister and the doctor said. They said it's a miracle that mom and dad are alive, and that no amount of money can be spent if they want to wake up. Who said I was going to comfort you? Su Pingan walked over to his parents' bed and said, actually, mom and dad aren't in a coma this time, but because their physique has awakened. What is physical awakening? Su Li's large eyes were filled with confusion. Simply put, the body is changing, so it briefly falls into a coma. In fact, long before he came to the house, Su Pingan had already gained insight into his parents' two abnormalities. That's why, upon hearing that his parents were in a coma, he didn't rush. So mom and dad will wake up? On Su Li's face, excitement suddenly appeared vaguely. Yes, and they'll be healthier and stronger when they wake up. Su Pingan found a chair and sat next to his parents, looking at these two faces that he hadn't seen in 1,000 years. Although his face was calm, his heart had already been in turmoil. I didn't expect to see my parents again after 1,000 years. There are no words to describe this excitement. At the moment, he couldn't wait to go nowhere and stay here to watch over his parents. Su Li's trust in his brother, that was naturally unconditional. After receiving an affirmative answer, he was instantly beaming with joy. With that, he moved a chair, bounced around a bit, sat on it, and then said, full of curiosity, brother, how did you know? Because my brother's eyes, which are very special, can see through things that most regular people in the world don't know. Su Pingan pointed to his eyes. In fact, there was a second half that he hadn't said. After reaching his point, every part of his body, in fact, was special. So, Sula nodded and immediately said, so, brother, you've been away from home all these years because of your eyes? Listening to his sister's brain circuit, Su Pingan was not surprised. After all, it was just a 5 or 6-year-old girl. Besides, Su Pingan enjoyed this mode of conversation with his sister. He laughed. It's not that I left home because of my eyes, but I accidentally left home and went to another world. That's why I'm special. Went to another world? Sula pondered for half a day and said, is it a world of aliens like they say in the news? Su Pingan nodded. That I know. Sulu was immediately a bit excited, showing off what he had seen. I heard my sister say that all those aliens are so powerful that they can shatter the earth with a single punch. And if it weren't for the fact that we had something to hold us back, we would have been captured by the aliens. Your sister was right. Su Pingan recalled the scene when he had just arrived on Earth. If he hadn't struck out on his own, maybe the Earth, really, is in crisis. So are you that powerful, brother? Su Pingan nodded. Yes. So are they good? Or are you good? Su Pingan pondered for a moment before saying, I should be the one who is powerful. Wow. Brother is great. Su Li's eyes were instantly filled with surprise. Su Pingan narrowed his eyes, very much flattered by the compliments from his sister. Although Su Pingan had traveled all the way, quite a few people had said so about themselves, but it just doesn't feel the same with my sister. Right. It was as if my sister suddenly remembered something. Bouncing out of his chair, he opened the drawer in his room with a hop and a skip. Then he pulled out a cell phone and handed it to Su Pingan. Hey, my sister wouldn't let me use your phone, so I hid it in mom and dad's room so she wouldn't even look for it. and I charge it all the time. Su Pingan couldn't help but stare at this familiar and unfamiliar thing. Immediately, my sister continued, a few days ago, one of your classmates called you and said that she asked if you had come back, and asked me to inform you that you had gone to the reunion. Class reunion? Su Pingan murmured and opened his mouth. In his mind, it was the system's quest prompt that surfaced. Chapter 8: The Way to Become Immortal. After talking to my sister, the latter went off to do his homework. Su Pingan was also finally returning his thoughts, once again, to the system. Who created you? Su Pingan conveyed his intention. System, the host's question is beyond the scope of my answer. For this answer, Su Pingan was not surprised. He continued to convey his thoughts. Can you take me to the maker? System, the host's question is beyond the scope of my answer. Su Pingan paused, so he changed his mind and asked, can you let me go to the immortal world? This time, the system answered. Finally, differently. This system is designed to help the host become the strongest in the world and naturally be able to travel to the immortal world. Su Pingan was a bit taken aback. I didn't realize that the system was finally somewhat useful. So, continuing, he asked, the path to immortality has been broken. So how will you let me go to the immortal realm? Please ask the host to complete the novice quest first. After Su Pingan paused for a moment, he was clearly somewhat speechless. After a moment, he adjusted his mind and continued to try to communicate with the system. This seat is already at the extreme realm of humanity, and the novice quest no longer has any meaning for me. Just tell me directly how to go to the immortal world, or what tasks need to be accomplished in order to become immortal. If the host wants to become immortal, please complete the novice quest first. Pingan Su. He sort of understood that this system had the ability to communicate and talk though, but only to the extent that it is not even as good as the Earth's little love classmates. However, communicating with the system didn't get the job done though. However, there was one more way to get to the immortal world. Not sure the system is bull asterisk though, but as long as he could become immortal, it was worth his while. However, right now, since we can't find out who is behind the system, it was also just a matter of completing the system quest so as to find the clues behind it. Su Pingan immediately pondered over this novice quest. It's just a matter of attending a class reunion and punching old classmates in the face. Actually, it's not that hard. It's just a matter of throwing in the towel. It was a good thing that he had already used the great dream of the ages to seal his divine side. Otherwise, with one's previous character, one could never go for such a thing. And now, nighttime. This week's anecdote moment. Before the internet, Thai tourists photographed a video shaped like the legendary giant dragon. Rumors spread, but after experts analyzed and concluded that there may be a problem with the angle of filming, it is just a giant python. Into the scientific summary, a teenager accidentally ate a fruit on the roadside, but then spit flames, and finally after the program teen door-to-door investigation, found that the other party is just using special effects to get traffic, to earn money, has been arrested by the police. Latest notice. There have been many murder cases in Zhangchang. The murderer's motive is unknown. Please avoid going out late at night, and try to choose the crowded roads to pass. Sula held the remote control and kept switching channels, then couldn't help but look at Su Pingan again. Brother, are you really going to the reunion? Su Pingan nodded. Yes, what's the problem? Suli's big, munchkin eyes kept turning, then muttered, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the news says it's not safe. There are murderers. So would it be safer to bring someone with you? Su Pingan couldn't help but be amused. So you want to follow me? Right. Sula nodded his head like a rattle. No. Su Pingan hastily refused. Are you kidding? You're going to punch yourself in the face, then falling face to face. It was naturally impossible for Su Pingan to bring a liability. Humph. Brother bad. Su Lu, who had been uncovered, was instantly unhappy. Didn't you promise your sister that you would take me, and you don't keep your word? I can wait for Su Xian to come back, Su Pingan said as he fiddled with the Ultraman toy that had fallen apart. But sister is sometimes so busy that she can't come back for a few days. Su Lu hurriedly added, but you're going to the class reunion tomorrow. But your sister is already on her way back. Su Pingan shrugged. Nonsense. When my sister comes back, she will inform me in advance. Sula hastily raised his arm, which was sporting a little genius child watch. But, the words just fell. Click. The door lock turns. Su Xian opened the door and walked into the living room to the duo. Compared to daytime, Su Xian clearly had a little more weariness on his face, after changing out of one's clothes. Then, as if something came to mind, with a face full of anger, he looked at Su Pingan. What are you doing back here? Obviously, the girl took the morning's conversation and picked it up instantly. Do you need a reason to go home? Su Pingan didn't feel that his sister had gone too far, if he were himself. I'm afraid he wouldn't be much better than her. It can't be helped. The Su family has this grumpy gene. You still know the family? Besides, if this were your home, would you not come back for a year? Do you know that after you ran away from home, Mom and Dad were completely laid up in bed trying to find you and couldn't move? Su Xin questioned one after another. Su Pingan didn't say anything either, letting her vent as much as she could. However, Su Lu, at this time, stood up and explained in a small voice, "Brother, it's not that you're not coming back, but you've gone to the world of aliens and can't come back. Also, my brother said that Mom and Dad aren't in a coma, but are awakening their physiques and will wake up soon." Su Xin heard her sister's words, but glanced at Su Pingan and coldly grunted, "You have a knack for deceiving children." Su Pingan couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. What I said to Su Lu was true. I was trapped in the heavenly Yuan world, where I became an emperor before I stumbled upon the opportunity to return to Earth. Su Pingan did not intend to hide the matter of his identity from his family. Su Xin directly couldn't help but roll her eyes. "I'm not the little girl I was back then. You don't have to use the same thing you used against Su Lu to deal with me again." Su Pingan had wanted to speak again. Su Xin directly said, "I don't care if you want to come back, but you better hurry up and leave. And if you want to do something to apologize to the family again, I will definitely not spare you. Su Lu, sleep with me tonight." Having said that, Su Xin then couldn't help but stagger a bit. Su Pingan wasn't worried because he could just tell that Su Xin seemed to have overexerted herself today and her body was fatigued to the extreme. There are no problems with health. Immediately, after Su Xin stood up and stabilized her body, she turned around and went upstairs to start packing up to get ready for bed. Su La had no choice but to reluctantly follow. However, when passing in front of Su Pingan, he couldn't help but say, "Brother, sister doesn't even believe you. Why don't you also punch and blow up a planet? So that sister will believe that you went to an alien world?" Su Pingan froze, as if it wasn't impossible. However, then smiled and said, "Brother me, in the alien world, have been living for 1,000 years, long ago, do not need to prove themselves like others. What? We still have a long time. Your sister will understand. Hurry up and go to sleep." Su Lu was obviously a bit confused and couldn't help but ask again, "How long is 1,000 years? However, the words were not yet finished. Sister's voice, then, rang out again. "Su Lu, get up here and take a bath and go to bed." Holler sister. Su Lu scrunched his neck and hurriedly hopped up the stairs. As Su Pingan watched this scene, he couldn't help but be amused. With that, the spelled-out Ultraman was placed on the living room table. Day 2. "Brother, take me to the reunion, I beg you." Su Lu looked at Su Pingan, who was preparing to go out, with a pleading look on his face. Chapter 9 The Gathering. The suspected Tongshen. "Su Lu, come back here." Su Xin's voice, at once, pierced through the room. Next moment, Su Lu then couldn't help but let his neck shrink, obviously afraid, and this sister. A thirsty face looked toward Su Pingan, counting on his brother to say a few more words. Who knows? Without looking back, Su Pingan took the opportunity to leave. "Humph, don't even take me out. I'll just go play by myself." Su Lu grunted, but the grandiose words had yet to be realized. The next moment, it was yanked in by one of Su Xin's large hands. River City, a city built on a river. The Zhonghai Hotel, which is located on the riverside and has a unique view, is the most famous 5-star hotel in Zhongcheng, and at that moment in front of the hotel, a dozen young men were gathering. I didn't expect that the class president would start a successful business after graduation, and I'm afraid his worth is worth tens of millions of dollars now, right? It might be more than that. The latest news, his company will be listed soon. By then his value will have to be doubled a few times. The billionaire owner is not too much. So exaggerated? The class president is already in this class. Why did he suddenly think of inviting us to dinner? Who said it was an invitation? As far as I know, our classmate, Lu Xiaoyin, is said to have been spotted by the world's top 100 Bodhi gene group. The class president is using the class reunion as an excuse to hook up with Lu Xiaoyin. Bodhi Genetics? That's the one. The trillion-dollar conglomerate that has supposedly developed a way to attack leukemia? Anyway, for this class reunion, we're all just chaperones. The real protagonists are other people's class president and Lu Xiaoyin. The students were chatting away in the doorway as you and I talked. Not much longer. A Maybach, then, had appeared in front of them, and the man who came down. It's the squad leader, dressed in a dapper suit, with a straight posture and a young face. Even without the billionaire aura in place, he is a young man who attracts the eye. The moment he appeared, a group of students, all of a sudden, surrounded him and greeted him, and the latter responded with a smile one by one. Only, being the proprietor of the treat, He didn't invite the dozen or so students to be seated just because they had been waiting at the door for a long time. Instead, he remained standing in the doorway, his gaze looking away now and then. The crowd, even if they were stupid, completely understood. The class president was clearly drunk on this dinner invitation. The good thing is that it wasn't a long wait. A white Alpha parked in front of the hotel. The students were all caught up in the moment, one by one. The car is also worth over $1 million though. But, as a nanny car, he's all about being a second car, or a car used for leisure trips. That means that anyone who owns this car has at least one driver. The identity of the people inside the car can be imagined, either rich or noble. The car door opens. Only a young girl stepped out of the car. The woman's appearance was very delicate, but she was dressed very much like a dopamine, wearing brightly colored clothing and shorts with leather boots on the lower half of her body, which gave her a very competent feeling. Koton, it's finally time for you to come. The class president had come striding up to her and greeted her warmly. If saying hello to your classmates before is polite, and now it's obvious with a hint of chasing, the class president's attitude towards Lu Xiaoyin seems to be completely different. Yeah, even though Lu Xiaoyin joined the Bodhi gene, it's not so bad that the class president is so pleasing, right? It can't be that the class president has a crush on Ryu Xiaoyin, can it? The class president is rumored to be married. How could he possibly like Lu Xiaoyin? So what's this for? Don't you guys worry about it. People are big shots now. There's this melon-eating heart. Spend more time at the dinner table. Walk around. The students who saw the scene also whispered behind you. At this point, Lu Xiaoyin also finally spoke up. Squad leader, where's Su Li? The name Su Li was mentioned. The squad leader couldn't help but be in a trance. In fact, this meal today, indeed, as the classmates had said, they had put it up themselves in order to flatter Lu Xiaoyin. The class reunion, however, was not something that Lu Xiaoyin had asked for. Instead, it's Suri, the class president, who came back to her senses, hurriedly said, Su Li promised me that she would still come to the class reunion once, but she's not sure when she'll come over. Fine, then you'd better make sure that Suri will come, or else I don't like to have these class reunions. Lu Xiaoyin shrugged, then said, then let's go up first. The squad leader quickly smiled and said, yes, we'll go up first. Just then, look guys, is that Tang Shan and Su Pingan? Among the students, there was a sudden sound of surprise. The gazes of all the people, too, could not help but look toward the distance. Just see the entrance to the hotel. One after the other, two figures appeared. One was none other than the pacing Su Pingan. The other, on the other hand, was Tang Shan, who had just gotten out of his BMW. That's too much of a coincidence, isn't it? A student exclaimed. However, some students do not like to get together when they are reading, so they do not know the meaning of this sentence, and immediately could not help but ask, how is it coincidental that you don't know? First of all, this Su Pingan, before he even graduated, he suddenly disappeared. Secondly, there's this Tang Shan, who, not long after the former's disappearance, suddenly suffered a strange illness and directly became a vegetable, lying in bed. Graduation parties big and small at the time, these two never attended because of special issues, but today they appeared directly together. Do you think it's a coincidence? The words of the classmates naturally reached the class president and Lu Xiaoyin's ears. The class president, on the other hand, smiled and looked at the students around him. You guys greet these two students first. I'll take Lu Xiaoyin up first. In his opinion, these classmates, long ago, were not from the same world as himself. What happened to them had nothing to do with themselves. He just wants to fulfill his purpose. Only, Lu Xiaoyin, however, suddenly waved her hand, signaling to wait a moment, her eyes looking at these two people dead on. What's the matter, Tiny? You still remember these two students? The class president was a bit surprised by Lu Xiaoyin's action. After this Lu Xiaoyin had joined the Bodhi Gene group, he was well aware of how much weight the other party carried today. Even he, himself, could only ask for help with her in certain matters, and she had long since joined herself, and had long since lost interest in these old classmates, as well. Otherwise, he would not have to make a big deal to invite her for a meal as a listed boss. It's not the impression. It's that I think they're special. Rhea Xiaoyin narrowed her eyes. The squad leader's eyes revealed a hint of oddity as he curiously surveyed those two people. Special? Could it be that they are also evolved? Chapter 10, Changes in the World. The squad leader lowered his voice, seeking out Lu Xiaoyin as a listed group boss. In fact, it has been possible to access some of the secrets of the world, and evolvers. 4-1. Today's Earth appears to be a peaceful place on the surface. In reality, there has been a sea change a long time ago. With the frequency of supernatural events on Earth, the High Command is trying to keep the masses stable. It doesn't reveal the truth of the matter. But paper can't hold fire. Some people in the upper echelons, naturally, have known all this for a long time. Moreover, it was also understood that this change, although it might be dangerous, was also an opportunity. An opportunity to put people on the path of evolution. I can't sense a single aura on either of them. Lu Xiaoyin shook her head. No aura? Not an evolved person then, right? The squad leader was a little puzzled. Why are you paying so much attention to those two anymore? Nowadays unusual people, though, cannot become evolved. But the body, more or less, has a little aura. And these two people don't have any aura fluctuations on them. It's like they're hidden. Lu Xiaoyin's eyes were a bit odd. You know, the only reason she was able to join the Bodhi gene was because she became an evolved person in addition to being in a supernatural event herself. The special ability he had acquired was to sense other evolved people. That's what Bodhi genetics sees in her, and sees her as a high level, pulling in talent for the group. But both of these people are of ordinary status. The squad leader paused, but spoke anyway. He had done a lot of preparation for today's reunion. Naturally, this included a casual survey of the classmates' identities. It could be said that among the people present, apart from the target, Lu Xiaoyin, it was Su Li who was the most special. Everyone else is too common. Even if the Tongshen family had a little money, it was only a little money. Then maybe I'm sensing it wrong. Lu Xiaoyin shook her head and gave up watching the two. This situation, while rare, but not for nothing, her time was precious, so there was no point in wasting it on these two ordinary students. Immediately, led by the squad leader, the duo took the lead and walked towards the box, and in the meantime, Tang Shan, who had just gotten out of the BMW, but his eyes looked toward Lu Xiaoyin, who was already far away, and the corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. Lu Xiaoyin, it's true that she's an evolutionary, and her soul fluctuation is very special, far stronger than the evolvers I killed before. At this moment, Tang Shan finally had no regrets, coming to this reunion. As a traveler, he was even more of an old man who had lived in the other world for thousands of years. Can't even look at it. It's only a few years of friendship with a classmate. If he hadn't known that Lu Xiaoyin might be an evolutionary, he wouldn't be here. The good thing is, this reunion has given him a windfall. Immediately, without saying a word, the expression on his face instantly changed. The originally gloomy face suddenly squeezed out a smile and walked towards his classmates. Just then, Tong Shen, an unfamiliar voice sounded behind him. Tang Shan instantly shrank like a cat with fried fur. Who is it? He turned his head in horror and hastily looked behind himself, only to see a teenager like him, about the same age and size, standing behind him, waving his hand in greeting him. Are you okay? The teenager was a little surprised by the other's actions and opened his mouth to inquire. To the uninitiated, this may seem like Don Hill is overly nervous. However, unbeknownst to him, in Tang Shan's heart, it had already set off shock waves. You know, who is he? Tang Shan? Dual martial soul seal Doluwa. His soul was powerful and unparalleled in the soul master world. There was simply no one, under his own perception, approaching behind him unknowingly, and the teenager just did it. If this was in the Soulmaster world, one would be approached from behind and still be unaware of it. I'm afraid I don't even know how many times I've had to die. You are Pingon Su? Tang Shan recalled the teenager, but his eyes were dead set on the other, as if to discern some secret from him. Just moments later, and he gave up. The other party was very ordinary to his perception, not even an evolved person. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. With that, it consoled itself with the thought that it was probably because of the Earth that it was having problems with its perceptions. If not, could it be that the teenager in front of him was still an even more powerful existence than himself? No way, absolutely not. Don Hill blamed it all on his own problems. A vicious glare followed. With that, he turned and left. There was no intention whatsoever of continuing the communication. At this moment, Su Pingon, who saw the scene, was somewhat dumbfounded. In his memory, Tongshen is a dead ringer for himself. The other party despises himself so much that whenever he meets, he can't avoid a round of snide remarks. And Su Pingon's intention was to hurry up and complete his mission amidst the other party's sneering and cynicism. But now, the other party didn't even seem to have the desire to communicate with himself. This obviously caught him a little off guard. And that's when the students came up to meet them as well. Tang Shan and Su Pingon, the two existences that were involved in the accident back then, instantly became the objects of inquiry in the mouths of their classmates. Now that Su Pingon, who had sealed his divine side, had gotten acquainted with his classmates. After all, meeting with classmates you haven't seen in a long time is a way of experiencing the Red Earth. Tong Shen, on the other hand, was much more restrained, but it couldn't hold the enthusiasm of the students. Not much longer. the duo had then appeared on top of the dining table. Only, the scene changes. The protagonists also became the duo of the class president and Lu Xiaoyin. Everyone toasted to the duo for the chance to show off and mingle. Even if the class president and the two of them, Lu Xiaoyin, made it clear that they didn't drink, the students also enjoyed themselves, even if they drank water instead of alcohol. After 3 rounds of drinks, everyone started talking again. Have you heard? Someone has found a real dragon. On Mount Tai. I saw it too. But where in the world is a real dragon? It's all just a trick pulled by a bunch of unscrupulous newsmen. What about the alien thing in the sky before? Weren't there a lot of astronomy enthusiasts at the time who captured images of alien warships? This is a real shot. But if you ask me, maybe it's a shot of some new weapon being researched by a pretty country. Or else if there really are alien warships, we'd still be here as cattle and horses? What about the golden light? The golden light that appeared in the footage that was taken with the alien warship was brighter than the sun. And there were people who said that there was a figure in the golden light, and that it was God. I don't know about that, but it seems to me that it's just a bunch of people with nothing better to do than create a gimmick. So how are they going to get traffic? At this point, listen to the banter. There were only 4 other people in the field who didn't speak up. Of these, Lu Xiaoyin and the class president count as 2. They to know a little bit about the inside. However, they weren't going to tell these students. In the duo's minds, these classmates were no longer of the same world. So why spend time wasting words? The third person, naturally, was Tang Shan. He just smiled disdainfully at his classmates' comments. This is the ignorance of the weak. He's seen a lot. Didn't even bother to wake them up. Instead, he needed this ignorant human, so that he could better carry out his plan. As for Pingansu, simply lazy. And at this moment, his mind was thinking about how to complete the system's mission. Knock knock. Just then, there was a sudden knock on the door. Immediately afterward, the door to the compartment was opened. A slender figure appeared at the gate. The crowd's eyes instantly followed. However, the moment he saw the figure, everyone did not have to freeze in disbelief. Chapter 11 Tangshan Strikes. White Moonlight. Everyone froze neatly, not without reason. Rather, it was because the appearance and temperament of the visitor was too special. With light makeup, delicate skin, and exquisite features, she had outlined her beautiful face like a lotus flower. Slender body, standing straight, but still can see the body of the graceful face with a faint smile, but cannot help but reveal a trace of noble, cold, so that people cannot help but produce a sense of distance, just as the drop of the mortal world of the nymphs, the men present, all as if they had lost their souls, and the women could not help but produce an inferiority complex. It's been a long time, everyone. The woman opened her mouth, as clear as a pearl falling from a jade plate. Sorry, Big Beautiful Sue is actually here too? Wow, rare and rare. After the others spoke, the students finally came back to their senses and hid their embarrassment by saying hello. And that's when Lu Xiaoyin, who had been sitting in the upper seat, also finally stood up and greeted with a hint of excitement in her eyes. Because that's what she's here for. Sorry, the well-deserved flower of their class, of course, is the whole school recognized as the most beautiful school flower of all time. However, that wasn't really what attracted Lu Xiaoyin. Rather, it was Su Li's family history. She is the daughter of the president of the Shin group. In today's Kyushu, as for how 1,000 golds are reduced to their company, this one circulated a bit more doggedly among the students, because Su Li is an illegitimate daughter. Until she became an adult, she was basically a loose cannon. It was not until after graduation that her status was officially recognized by the group's president. However, there was more to this that Lu Xiaoyin knew, because Su Li could not just be officially recognized for the sake of being an illegitimate daughter. Rather, it was because she was special and had gained unimaginable chances in this change of the earth that she was held as a treasure by the group. Although she, Lu Xiaoyin, was also favored by the Bodhi group, she was merely a part-time worker. Compared to a Qianjin like Su Li who was in contact with the core of the group, the gap was like a chasm. Therefore, Lu Xiaoyin agreed to the class president's invitation in order to want to hug Su Li's thigh. As for the head of the class, naturally, the same purpose applies. Only, Su Li people like his temperament simply rejected people, if not under the pretext of a class reunion. It's simply not possible to ask out for dinner. Moreover, he also had the self-awareness that with this bit of his worldly assets, it was no different from paper in the eyes of the other party. So backing off and trying to flatter Lu Xiaoyin, the main character of this class reunion, in the final analysis, was all Su Li. We're all classmates. No need to be so polite. And I came too late. So here's to everyone first. Su Li spread a smile, her affable face, as if even the lights of the banquet hall were eclipsed. As she took the initiative to put her foot down, the atmosphere this really warmed up. However, the protagonists present then once again shifted from the class president and Lu Xiaoyin to Su Li. The conversation also centered around her. And after the wine, even Don Hill, who hasn't been speaking much, all raised their cups and came to Su Li's front, wanting to make a separate toast. Mr. Su, would you like to have a drink? Su Li smiled faintly and did not raise her cup, but she also said casually, I'm not capable of drinking. I've already toasted everyone before. That's my limit. Tang Shan's face was suddenly not green. Obviously he didn't expect that the other party would refuse so dryly. Moreover, there was nothing wrong with Su Li's words. After all, the other party had toasted everyone as soon as they came to the table. It was important to realize that neither the class president nor Lu Xiaoyin had taken the initiative to honor any of their classmates yet. Not to mention Su Li, whose status was even more honorable. Under the gaze of the crowd, Tang Shan had to return unhappy. Only the eyes showed a hint of grimness. In his heart, he was laughing coldly. Good. I didn't expect. You are the first woman who dared to reject me after I became a sealed Doluo. Don't blame me for taking you as a furnace when the time comes. Tang Shan immediately made up his mind that when he recovered his cultivation, he would get this back. You know, after he became a sealed Doluo, how many women came forward and wanted to fall into his arms. If it wasn't for the fact that he was remembering old feelings and had a few more glasses of wine and stumbled upon the past, how could he have taken the initiative to initiate a toast with this woman? That's right. Su Li was precisely the goddess he had previously pursued with Su Pingan. With Dawn Hill going back, the students couldn't help but talk about it. This Tang Shan has pursued Su Li before, right? That's right. I didn't expect that after so many years, Tang Shan still hasn't died in his heart. However, now he's even more hopeless. Not only are people's looks and temperament on a higher level now, their family lineage is even more of an existence that we look up to. But, do you guys still remember? At that time, it seems like Su Pingan also courted Su Li, right? Moreover, someone once saw Su Li walking side by side with her on the playground, holding a bouquet of flowers. I remember. It was a sensational scene. Su Li at that time had never accepted another man's flowers. For a moment, the room fell silent. Su Pingan to the extent that he ate his food silently as if nothing had happened, ignoring it. These old stories of youthful madness had long since failed to make any waves in his heart. This scene, however, made the others unable to resist suspicion in their hearts. Who in the whole school knew about Tang Shan and Su Pingan's joint pursuit of Su Li at that time? But now we meet. Tang Shandu again toast. Want and Su Li pull up the relationship, but he did not have any reaction. This is still before the Su Pingan it? At this point, even Su Li looked at Su Pingan. She was indeed a cool and rejecting woman, but she was also more of a careful one. From the time he entered the door until now, among his classmates, only Su Pingan did not take the initiative to talk to him, and even his line of sight did not fall on himself, as if in his eyes, there was no himself. This is clearly not the character of the other side. Moreover, back then, if Su Pingan hadn't disappeared, she would have almost agreed to his advances. She almost regretted it in hindsight. But the other party's attitude nowadays clearly made himself feel an illusion that he seemed to have overestimated himself. Sensing that the atmosphere was off, the squad leader stood up instantly. I forgot to say, after everyone has eaten, I also booked the entertainment room next door. There are activities such as billiards, KTV, massage, etc. So you can go and experience the experience. Of course, all the costs. I'm all inclusive. With those words, the door was opened. The students were all happy at once. Everyone is the usual cattle and horses to fight workers. The entertainment box of the big hotel, they naturally did not bother to experience. Now someone treats wine after 3 rounds, naturally want to go to experience. Immediately, some people went to the box happily. As for the class president and Lu Xiaoyin, but after looking at each other, prepare to leave. But before you go, the class president came to the side of Su Li, whispered and inquired, Su Li big beauty, this side is a little noisy. I and Xiaoyin in the hotel next door tea house booked the elegant room, where the boss has recently got a batch of Wui Mountain 300 years old tea tree de Hongpo. Why don't you go to have a cup of tea together to talk about it? Lu Xiaoyin also cast an expectant look. I'll be there later. Su Li didn't refuse this time. She naturally knew the purpose of the class president and Lu Xiaoyin organizing this class reunion. And she also knew that what she was going to talk about next was no longer accessible to the rest of the class. Good. Then Koton and I will go over first. The squad leader immediately had a look of excitement on his face. With that, he and Lu Xiaoyin, who was also in a satisfied state, headed towards the tea house. And in the meantime, the long-awaited Tangshan has also finally moved. Chapter 12, The Unconquerable Su Li. At the front door of the hotel, Su Pingan appeared to be alone as he slowly paced out. Instead, the divine thoughts had locked onto Tang Shan, who was a few hundred meters away. Su Pingan was a little curious that this Tangshan wasn't really leaving. Instead, he was lurking in the distance, with a sneaky look, and was following Lu Xiaoyin and the squad leader to the tea house. From the initial overreaction, then the silence at the dinner table, until now this sneakiness. Obviously, Tang Shan must be holding some unknown purpose for coming to the reunion this time. It seems that this system mission isn't as good as imagined. It was a good thing that the system quest, until now, hadn't prompted a failure. It seemed to be following this Tangshan that was the key to accomplishing the mission. With this in mind, Su Pingan wasn't in a hurry, but continued to slowly follow. Su Pingan. Just then, a cold voice came from behind. Something? Su Pingan didn't bother to turn his head. Under his divine mind, who the person behind him was, he naturally knew long ago. It's not a big deal. The person who came was naturally Su Li, only to see her frowning, obviously somewhat dissatisfied. It's not so much the other side's words as it is the attitude. He even took the initiative to come to the door himself, and he didn't even bother to return his head. You know, when he opened his mouth, except for Su Pingan, people passing by in the surrounding area couldn't help but steal glances. If it wasn't for the fact that at this time, Su Li was already followed by bodyguards. Otherwise, there are few confident people who come up and hit on them. As for Su Pingan, naturally, he was somewhat speechless at Su Li's reply. Again, he wants to find himself and says he has nothing to do. This was also the reason why Su Pingan, over the years, had not touched another woman. This creature, always talking halfway and leaving people to guess. Where is the path of cultivation interesting? Effort pays off. Never cover up. Before we'll chase the Su Li, also young and unintelligent. If it were to happen again, women are just affecting the speed of their draw. Since the other guy said it was fine, Su Pingan didn't bother to continue pestering, and immediately took a step and left. Su Li, on the other hand, was completely and somewhat confused when she saw this. Obviously, this disrupted her calculations. In her opinion, Su Pingan's behavior towards herself today might have been a few moments of intentionality and lust. That was why there was a hint of defiance in her heart, wanting to make the other party reveal their nature, even going so far as to offer to say hello. But it didn't occur to me that the other side wasn't impressed at all, even as if they were completely out of their depth. But it also fueled her defiant nature even more. You seem different than before? Although inwardly Su Li was already somewhat agitated, his words still seemed very calm, as if he was exchanging daily pleasantries with his friends. Each other. You never used to reach out to me either. Did you? Su Pingan paced slowly, not stopping for that reason. Su Li hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she also took a step and followed, with a seemingly unfastened pace. But in less than a moment, he was walking parallel to Su Pingan. She did not dwell on the previous topic, but slowly said, "In fact, I have always known that you are very outstanding, whether it is in the study or in sports or in all aspects. It is just that at first I did not agree to you at the university. Just think that we are not a world." Obviously, she was mentioning the past, letting Su Pingan understand how he had pursued himself back then, and pulling back a game for the unconquerable in her heart. However, he had underestimated Su Pingan. The latter was not at all impressed, just spoke faintly, "We are indeed not of the same world." With these words, Su Pingan didn't bring with him a sense of placing anger, or hitting back at the other party, because now he is, indeed, not of the same world as them. Had it not been for this cry for help from Earth, they would never have met again. However, the tone and attitude of these words, in Su Li's opinion, was Su Pingan clearly choking himself on purpose. Su Pingan, she finally lost control of her emotions and spoke directly. "The world I told you about is no joke at all. There will be a great change in the future, and all creatures will encounter the choice between life and death. At a time like this, you'd better defect to some power. Benji and Ria Xiaoyin are both a good choice." Suri didn't say to defect herself, but who didn't know that Lu Xiaoyin and the class president were treating themselves? In fact, it's indirectly saying that one can defect to oneself, letting Su Pingan once again return to the year, the way he was when he was pursuing himself. Su Pingan laughed it off, while still striding along without looking back. At his true age, he had already lived for thousands of years, so he naturally understood the little calculation this woman was making. Only, it seemed to him that Su Li's behavior was too childish. One couldn't possibly play this kind of fighting game with such a female child, could one? Seeing that Su Pingan was unmoved, Su Li wanted to continue speaking. The bodyguard beside him slowly took a step forward and silently shook his head. That's what made the woman stop. "Stay away from each other. Miss, you just revealed a little too much. It took the bouncer a moment to speak slowly. Obviously the other party's status was not low, otherwise the words would not have carried a hint of meaning. Suri paused. The bodyguard continued to speak. Miss, I think, after this class reunion, you should completely sever your relationship with these usual people. It's not just about wealth and status considerations, but after the great change in heaven and earth, you will be given that supreme chance to consider. At that time, you will be able to become the true king of this world. The order of everything in the world will be rewritten. Strength is the root that determines everything. Before the words were finished, the bodyguard looked in the direction Su Pingon had left, his tone turning with a hint of condescension as he said, your group of classmates. It's a matter of whether they can survive in the future or not. Even if we manage to survive, the gap between us and you will grow wider and wider. For example, that brat named Su Pingon just now would only have been able to kneel at your feet and seek refuge at that time. Where would he have been as proud as he is today? Sniffed Suri. So much for fantasizing about that image. However, she immediately shook her head. The original cool temperament also emerged from the body once again. And, for once, it's more than that. Behind her back, a halo of light unexpectedly surged out, setting off her original aura. Once again, with an additional layer of divinity. Uncle Black, I naturally understand everything you said. Suli slowly spoke. With that, the vision of the body, fleeting. So, miss, are you going back next? The bodyguard called Uncle Black continued to ask. Go back for what? This last reunion was meant to be my way of coming out for a break. Now that the party is not over, go prepare the car for the tea house. After saying that, Suli walked back to the hotel. If anything, it was his own fault that his mind was disrupted earlier. Wouldn't it be really out of character to not go to any of the next appointments then? And in the meantime, the tea house and the hotel were separated by just a few hundred meters above the road. Tang Shan had already appeared in front of the squad leader and Lu Xiaoyin. Chapter 13 Security Bureau, Tangshan's Threat Level, Jiang Province, an unusual-looking three-story architectural building down the street. In fact, it's none other than Kyushu, the Paranormal Security Administration, which is situated in the Jiang Province. The presence of evolvers is undoubtedly upsetting the balance of the planet today. The state is trying to maintain stability. Naturally, a security bureau constructed by evolved people has evolved to provide checks and balances. At this moment, a man dressed in black, with a very strong body, came into the room in a hurry with the file documents. Several people were sitting on top of their posts. After seeing men appear, they all opened their mouths and called out Captain Lee to greet them. The man nodded, then raised the paper in his hand and spoke. The results are in. The murderer is a 23-year-old male from Jiang Province who just graduated a year ago, named Tang Shan. With these words, some employees couldn't help but murmur at once. Only 23 years old. And you're able to single-handedly kill other revolvers? Evolutionaries look beyond age. Now that the Earth has changed so much, anyone can become a superpower. Don't forget about our team Su Xin. That woman is only 20 years old, and she can already tie with the captain now. Captain Lee distributed the information to each person individually. The next task is to track the other side. In the absence of orders from above, never make a move. Someone immediately wondered, Captain Lee, since we know who the other party is, why don't we just arrest them? Catch? Captain Lee's eyes showed a hint of a self-deprecating smile. Do you guys know what the higher-ups defined his danger level as? Ghost level. Evolvers are naturally divided into strengths and weaknesses. After determining the strength of the opponent, a danger level is assigned. Rat, wolf, tiger, ghost, dragon, god, ghost level danger. That's tops in the country. Further up the dragon and god levels, it was all about the invasion of the extraterrestrial races. Ghost level? How can that be? He has only defeated a few evolvers. Those of us, the one who hasn't defeated other evolvers? As a member of the security service, with the behemoth that is the nation of Kyushu as a backdrop, inside the members, naturally, there could be no weaklings. Someone immediately opened his mouth in defiance. Ha! You guys don't know about this. This guy, just yesterday, fought with Director Nyo of the Jiang Province Security Bureau. Not only is he uninjured, but he's already back in one piece. That defiant person directly stood up in shock. Our number one Director Nyo of Jiang Province didn't even take him down? Director Nyo is the undisputed number one evolver since he came to our Jiang Province Security Bureau. Everyone else's eyes couldn't help but show their gravity. So the orders from the top are just to follow up. The other side shouldn't know who we are yet. As long as we don't make a move, it shouldn't do anything to us. After all, we, the Security Bureau, the state is not public now. Captain Lee naturally understood the difficulty of this mission, so he naturally prioritized safety. So let such a Dawn Hill go? A female employee couldn't help but say. and the clues point out that this guy already has more than a dozen lives in his hands, and among them, there are even quite a few evolved people, and there are even our people inside. If we let it go any further, there will only be more deaths. Captain Lee gave the other party a reassuring look and said, "Don't worry, this matter has already been contacted from above, and without any surprises, there will be an expert who will come over and help us take him down." "Can you tell who it is?" one boy said with eyes full of anticipation. Team leader Lee said, "Unsurprisingly, it's probably the Stone God. Within the Security Bureau, there are nicknames for the strongest. Those who end in God are naturally the top evolvers in the country." The man who had gossiped before, his eyes lit up. The Stone God, is that being who, with his own strength, fought against those evolved demonic beasts in Mount Taibai and finally snatched the 1,000-year ginseng essence? And it seems like he became an evolutionary when the Earth first mutated. Captain Lee nodded. If it wasn't for this kind of character making a move, I'm afraid that Tongshen would be difficult to take down easily. Hearing this, the crowd couldn't help but feel inexplicably at ease. But the next moment, Captain Lee then said in a bad mood, "Now is not the time to be lax. According to the latest intelligence, Tang Shan has reappeared. The location is at the Jiangfu Hotel." "The Jiangfu Hotel? Is he going to kill again?" The crowd's hearts stuttered at that moment. "Not sure at the moment," Captain Lee said seriously. "Next is our mission. Follow him closely. If an accident occurs, save the people first. Don't engage with them." Someone suggested, "If it's a rescue, should we notify Su Xin? After all, her ability is related to space." Captain Lee paused, then shook his head. Today was supposed to be her day off. Besides, there's a sister at home to take care of. Forget it. In the meantime, in the middle of the tea house's elegant room, tiny, there are no outsiders next, so I'll get right to the point. Rumor has it that the Bodhi gene has found a way to make people evolved. Just make me an evolutionary. Name your price. The class president looked at Lu Xiaoyin with very serious eyes. That rumor, it's not entirely reliable. Lu Xiaoyin also did not intend to beat around the bush, explaining, there are two ways to become an evolver. One is to obtain the chance of the heaven and earth. You should also know that, such as accidentally eating fruits, or smelling a strange flower, or even drinking a mouthful of the mountain spring water. It's all possible. And the other kind is the individual physique. There are some people who have signs in their bodies even before the heaven and earth mutate. We, Bodhi Genetics, have only utilized a combination of two methods to create genetic agents that are injected into people's bodies. And although there have been successes, most people have died because of the failures. And the probability of success, less than 10%. Benji, are you sure it's worth a try? The class president was obviously a bit unconvinced. He continued, then is there a 100% way to succeed? Money really isn't a problem. That even if I sell my company, or maybe transfer it to you. But who among the rich who have been exposed to the level of evolved people do not understand the significance that evolution brings? Not only can you gain longevity, but you can gain great power. What's money? As long as you have that, the money scatters and sooner or later you can have it again behind you. Lu Xiaoyin shook her head. No. The class president paused, and with a smile on his face then said, is it because my money hasn't impressed you yet? Don't worry, I have ways to make money. If you wait for me for a while, I can still give you 10 times, or 100 times more wealth. Or, if you have any requests, you can mention them, and I will fulfill them. Lu Xiaoyin sighed and said helplessly, it's not that I won't help you, but I really don't have any. You must have lied to me, right? The class president who heard this result was clearly filled with resignation. Seeing this, Lu Xiaoyin shook her head. Squad leader, if you're still only holding this purpose, this matter, there's no need to talk about it anymore. The squad leader was a little anxious and was going to keep talking, but just then, what if there was a way I could make you a real evolved person? Squad leader, a familiar voice sounded beside the ears of the duo. Chapter 14, why don't you kowtow to him? Why are you here? The visitor was naturally none other than Tang Shan. The squad leader frowned. This tea room, but he had bagged it himself. No one else could have come in without his authorization. Squad leader, how about you kneel down and beg me now, and I'll help you become an evolutionary? Tang Shan was oblivious to his words, but instead continued to speak with a faint smile on his face. Tang Shan, how do you know about evolvers? The squad leader naturally would not agree to kowtow. Instead, full of suspicious questioning, does it matter? Considering you're my class president, I'd be willing to give you a chance. Now get on your knees. Tang Shan continued to speak with a playful smile on his face. Lu Xiaoyin, who was on the side, snorted coldly, I, Bodhi Jean, can't even help ordinary people become evolved 100%. Are you still stronger than us? Besides, let's not talk about this. We're all classmates. Isn't it too much for you to make the other person kneel down and beg you? Speaking, only to see a powerful aura unexpectedly erupt from Lu Xiaoyin's body. The squad leaders on the side, all of them could not help but subconsciously take a few steps back one after another. Oh, trying to press me with your aura? Tang Shan, at this moment, was condescendingly watching this scene, his eyes narrowing slightly. Next moment, around him, no wind rose, an even more powerful aura than that of Lu Xiaoyin gushed out. Behind it, there were even two silhouettes faintly emerging. How can there be such strong soul pressure? Tang Shan, inside your soul, how come there are two different strands? The moment Lu Xiaoyin felt this pressure, her entire face was instantly filled with shock. However, the words were not finished. A stream of blood spurted out of his mouth. Not bad. I didn't misread you. Your soul is indeed very special. You can actually sense my martial soul. It's just a pity that you were born in this world. If you were in the Soul Master world, old me might even designate you. A trace of pity appeared on Tang Shan's face. But now, I have to let you become my sustenance. Nutrients? Lu Xiaoyin immediately revealed a hint of bad premonition. At the same time, in his mind, he was recalling the recent notice issued by the Security Bureau, a murderer who specializes in hunting evolved people and has committed multiple crimes in the city. The purpose is to draw some kind of energy from the body. Could it be Tongshan? One thought and this. Hurry up! Lu Xiaoyin was also very smart and didn't stand and wait for the other party to finish, pulling the squad leader and hurrying to escape. The duo grabbed the door. A few breaths. Then he came to the gate. Follow the crowded places. The state has set up security bureaus in all areas. He wouldn't dare to be reckless. Ryu Xiaoyin let go of the squad leader. Obviously pulling a large man and coming outside almost instantly took a lot of his energy. So, is Tongshan strong? The squad leader had the shock to ask. If it's not strong, can I just run? Ryu Xiaoyin glared at the squad leader. The opponent's strength was simply beyond his conception. It might even be said that it was stronger than their Bodhi Gene's high-level evolvers who specialized in fighting. You know I'm strong and you want to do something useless? Tang Shan's voice, uncontrollably, came out ghostly once again. Lu Xiaoyin almost subconsciously shouted, "Run!" The entire person instantly, like a speeding arrow, leapt out. The squad leader saw this and followed. Just a few minutes later, panting, the class president finally arrived in front of Lu Xiaoyin. Only the other side, however, stood still. He couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you run?" "It's not right." Lu Xiaoyin looked around with a pale face at this moment. "What's wrong?" The squad leader saw this and followed to look around. The time now would be about 7 o'clock in the evening, and we're on the main road, but all around, there's no one. Lu Xiaoyin walked to the center of the street, where there should have been traffic, but at this time there was bizarrely no sound at all, and a needle could be heard. What's going on here?" The squad leader, who had been awakened by the point, couldn't help but feel the hairs of sweat stand on end. We fell for his illusion. After all, Lu Xiaoyin was from a large group and had more contact with evolved people, so she naturally understood the current situation. What then? The class president hid behind Lu Xiaoyin in fear. Only by defeating the master of the illusion, or if he lifts the illusion, we can get out. Lu Xiaoyin frowned, thinking of a countermeasure. This you can beat? The squad leader turned his hopeful gaze to Lu Xiaoyin. It was impossible for him, an ordinary person, to beat an evolved person, right? If I could beat him, could I be in such a mess? Lu Xiaoyin couldn't wait to directly kick this guy to death. If it wasn't for you organizing some kind of class reunion, how would I end up in such a situation? Although the class president was scolded, his face wasn't angry at all, just a compensating smile. It's my fault. Being able to start a business with empty hands. His skin has long been thicker than a city wall. Seeing this, Lu Xiaoyin was infuriated by his outburst. But suddenly his eyes couldn't help but twinkle. In fact, the way is not without. What way? The squad leader rushed to follow up. Didn't Suli promise us an appointment? Lu Xiaoyin's eyes flashed with a hint of hope as she said, as a 1,000-year-old daughter of the Divine Hidden Group, she naturally has the means to deal with illusions. But Suli didn't say when she was coming over. The squad leader was naturally not stupid, and immediately realized the key point of the problem. So, you're needed to stall for time. Lu Xiaoyin looked meaningfully at the other party. Me? The squad leader's head shook like a rattle. I can't. I'm not an evolutionary. I can't beat that Tongshan. Didn't say for you to fight him. So what do you mean? Lu Xiaoyin stared at the other party and slowly said, "Why don't you go kowtow to him? Knock one off?" The squad leader froze a bit at first, but in an instant it dawned on him, and his eyes glared huge as he said, "You want me to kowtow to him?" Lu Xiaoyin nodded. "As long as we can stall for time, we still have hope." No. A Tongshan, And you want me to kowtow to him? What kind of joke is that? The class president had absurdity almost written all over his face. If it were the former Tang Shan, indeed your current status, it would be almost as bad to have his entire family kowtow to you. But now, he's an evolutionary. Or an evolutionary far above you and me. Lu Xiaoyin's face was full of seriousness at this time. Don't you want to become an evolutionary? What if he can really help you? The squad leader, who had heard the words, had his face clouded over. A moment later, he clenched his teeth. It's just kowtowing. He hadn't been a grandson to many people since his time in this business. It was hard to get out of the misery and onto the shore though. But to live. Big deal. We'll do it again. Immediately. 2 words. Directly kneeling on both knees. Classmate Tang Shan. Bah. Brother Shan. I was blind to MT. Tai before. I'll kowtow to you right here. Say it. It really did just knock it right down. Lu Xiaoyin, who was on the side, didn't feel surprised. The process of contact understood how thick this guy's skin was. And in the meantime, space shook with the figure of Tang Shan. And finally again. Chapter 15 Teasing. Su Ping'an makes a move. Tang Shen. Seeing the other party come out, the squad leader immediately said without saying a word. I'm sorry before. I didn't notice that you, too, are an evolutionary. Now that we've kowtowed to you as well, is it possible to be magnanimous and spare us? Naturally, Lu Xiaoyin didn't have as much of a scene as the class president, but frowned and said, Tang Shan, what do you want to do? We're classmates. Do you still want to take a shot at us, classmates? Tang Shan smiled and asked rhetorically, if you don't know that I'm an evolved person, do you still consider me a classmate? Lu Xiaoyin and the class president instantly blushed. In their hearts, since they knew that the world would change drastically, they had long since treated ordinary people as if they were minions to be used at will. The reunion is just a means to an end for them. Classmate Tongshen, you're hurting people's feelings. The class president transformed the fastest, and quickly explained. Of course I treat you as a classmate. When I was in school, when you were chasing after Suli, I even helped you pass notes. Tongshen laughed, but I remember when you turned around and dropped my note. At first, Suli was recognized as the goddess of the whole school. What man wouldn't want her? It's just that most people are self-aware and choose to keep this adoration hidden in their psyche. But, if they can't get it, they naturally don't want anyone else to get it. The class president was a little embarrassed. I didn't think the other side would know about this. Sorry. I'm sorry. How about I buy you a meal? Yuck. Or shall I kowtow to you again? After feeling the pressure of the other side that came to the face, the class leader of such mortals, all really feel the real threat of death, and hastily kowtowed without saying a word. And that's when Lu Xiaoyin also spoke again. Tang Shan, withdraw the illusion and we'll pretend this matter never happened. Otherwise, the Bodhi Gene would have taken a shot at me, huh? Tanshen interrupted with a rhetorical question. Now that you know, you'd better weigh yourself. Lu Xiaoyin was constantly sweating coldly behind her back. As an evolutionary, especially a sensory evolutionary, she could best know the other party's killing intent that was strongly bubbling up at this moment. But the more she did, the more she could only buy herself a shot at survival by applying pressure and stalling for time. Ho ho ho, the Bodhi Gene. Tang Shan couldn't help but sneer. Not bad. For you guys, this kind of superpower group in the human world is indeed a top-notch existence. But, I'm not afraid to tell you, if this seed comes in its true form, what kind of Bodhi Gene I can exterminate with a single finger. Oh, but also the real body to come. You are not afraid of words so big flash waste? Lu Xiaoyin couldn't help but continue sarcastically. Don't think that you're amazing just because you know illusions. There are people in our Bodhi Gene who know illusions. Tang Shan couldn't help but shake his head and sneer. Remembering that you were classmates for a while, I only talked to you some more. Don't think I don't know what you're playing at. Waiting for Suri to come to your rescue. Are you? Lu Xiaoyin immediately shuddered. Bingo? Tang Shan smiled and asked rhetorically. Then have you ever wondered why I'm still here talking nonsense with you guys since I know? As if she had thought of something incredible, Lu Xiaoyin exclaimed. You want to make a move against Suli? This woman I honestly appreciate. After all, that's a white moonlight, and I'm even interested in taking him as a concubine. Tang Shan's originally calm face suddenly turned into a look of anger. Unfortunately, today at the dinner table, how dare you reject me? Therefore, she can only become my cauldron as well, and later turn into nutrients to be absorbed by me. Lu Xiaoyin was frightened by the perversity of the other party's words. She took a step back and said angrily, Tang Shan, I think you're crazy. Suli is the 1,000 gold of the Divine Concealment Group. Their group's research on evolvers is no weaker than that of our Bodhi genes. If you dare to take a shot at her, I'm afraid that countless evolvers will hunt you down. Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Tang Shan immediately let out a loud laugh. A group of mole crickets chasing after an elephant. Do you think the elephant will be afraid? Tang Shan, you're just a frog in the bottom of a well. You don't even know the terror of our groups. Lu Xiaoyin naturally didn't believe what the other party said. Tang Shan was amused. This seat has endured thousands of years. What forces have I not seen before? You are but a short 20-year-old girl child. How dare you presume to mention the frog at the bottom of the well? 1,000 years? Lu Xiaoyin's eyes couldn't help but reveal doubt. Tang Shan, what are you talking about? In his opinion, Tang Shan was nothing more than a classmate who had gotten an unexpected chance. There is absolutely no association with the meaning of what the other side said in their words. Playtime is over. However, Tang Shan clearly didn't want to continue talking nonsense with the other party, and lightly raised his palm. An invisible pressure appeared around Lu Xiaoyin. Lu Xiaoyin immediately felt that she was clutched in the palm of her hand by a pair of big hands, and she couldn't move her body for half a minute, and she could only let out a low cry of pain. Tang Shan, who had done all this, looked at the squad leader. Don't you want to become an evolutionary? Here's a chance for you. The squad leader, at this point, had long since been dumbfounded. In his eyes, that powerful Lu Xiaoyin was subdued by merely the other party raising his hand. How dare you resist? Tang Shan is wrong. Brother Shan, Master Shan, as long as you don't kill me, you can do whatever you want. My syndicate, you can just take it all. The squad leader is very clear about his situation in the face of life and death. Oh, then help me kill Lu Xiaoyin. Tang Shan, out of nowhere, threw out a dagger to the squad leader's face. Ha! Looking at the knife in front of him, the squad leader froze and turned to the other party. Master Shan, I don't want to be an evolutionary, or else, you can consider this matter as a fart on my part? Tang Shan's face was calm and he didn't open his mouth. The latter, however, was instantly creeped out, because at this moment, the class president felt that his heart, as if it was being pinched by the other party, would be clenched and burst by the other party as long as he said one more word. The squad leader looked at Lu Xiaoyin, his hand reaching out for the knife several times but shrinking back. Dead Taoist friends don't die of poverty. I'm sorry, Ryo-chan Nim. Finally, it was time to bite the bullet, make a decision, and walk slowly. Tang Shan, we're all classmates. Can't you let me live? Lu Xiaoyin, who saw this scene, spoke with difficulty. She also knew in her heart that it would be better to beg Tang Shan than to keep the squad leader from doing anything to herself. Then again, the threat of coming hard on Tang Shan before obviously didn't work, so he had to soften and beg for mercy. Noisy, Tang Shan had killed more people than the other party had ever seen, so how could he give up his goal with 1 or 2 lines of classmate love? Immediately, the palm of his hand was clenched. A mountainous pressure directly swept over the other party, and this time, Lu Xiaoyin didn't even make a sound before she directly fainted to death. Squad leader, still not making a move? Tang Shan looked at the other party playfully. The squad leader was jolted, but he still had the knife, so he stabbed at Lu Xiaoyin. But, next moment, a huge force struck. The class president's entire body, like a kite with broken strings, flew directly backwards. Blood gushed out of his mouth. His entire body stared at Tang Shan in death, obviously not understanding why the other party suddenly made a move towards himself. Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry, squad leader. I was just teasing you. Lu Xiaoyin is such a good soul power nutrient. It needs to be absorbed slowly. How can I let you kill it just like that? Tang Shan's face revealed a mischievous smile like he was catching an ant. You big shot. The squad leader who heard the words, blood gushed out of his mouth once again, and then he directly flung himself to the ground. Donaldson beckoned. It was as if Lu Xiaoyin had been propelled by an invisible force to come before her. What exuberant soul power! Tang Shan looked at his opponent's body with a hint of madness on his face. He raised his palm, and a strange shadow appeared between his palms, transforming into 2 chains and heading towards the other brain's body. But, just then, what are you doing here, Mr. Tongshen? A familiar and curious voice came from behind him. Chapter 16, The Crosser and the Crosser. Who? At this moment, Tang Shan instantly exploded. The familiar feeling of dread struck again. Once more. Why the again? Because today, for the second time, it had appeared behind him without being heard. His silhouette was like a ghost, constantly flashing and moving, and the original position, pulled away from a large distance. Of course, if the other party was just an ordinary evolutionary, the sight that they saw would only be Tang Shan's body constantly flashing in space. After all, everything here now was an illusion that he had created, and unusual people couldn't see his movements at all. But in the eyes of the visitor, that was different. I didn't expect to meet you here. Again, Tong Shen. The visitor waved, like a friend meeting again. You again. After the shock had passed, the originally inscrutable Tang Shan looked at the other party with a fierce expression on his face. What? Old friends meeting and not being welcome? The person who came was none other than Su Pingan. At this moment, if Tang Shan did not have 1,000 years of recuperation at this moment, it is estimated that he would have cursed the sky. Obviously, he couldn't see through Su Pingan at all. Whether it was Lu Xiaoyin from before, or the other Earth evolvers he had encountered, he could see right through each other, but only when looking at Su Pingan. And yet, he could only see that the other person was an ordinary, unusual person who couldn't be any more ordinary. Could be a problem. The more common it is, the more wrong it is. An ordinary person who can appear behind his back twice? Not to mention, this time, the other party had appeared in their own illusion. Who the hell are you? Tang Shan was on the other party's body, feeling the pressure, his eyes staring at the other party in death. This sentence, perhaps I should ask you? The Tangshan I am familiar with is not a good person, but he is not so bad as to kill his friends. Su Pingan glanced at Lu Xiaoyin and asked rhetorically. Ha! The Su Pingan I know wouldn't see this scene and be so calm. A cold smile appeared on Tang Shan's face. If it was a normal person, at the sight of his own murder scene, I'm afraid I'd have been scared enough to call the police. That would talk to himself so calmly. Su Pingan smiled and said, since that's the case, let's have an open and honest chat. I sense something in you that doesn't belong in this world. Let me guess. You're a traveler too? Just one sentence. Tang Shan's face suddenly looked as if he had seen a ghost. The sweaty hairs on his body, they couldn't help but stand upside down. He was the identity of a traveler, both in the Fighting Souls world and on Earth. Until now, he had never told any of them. How did the other side see through it? Not talking, so that means I guessed right? Su Pingan's voice sounded once again. Tang Shan's eyes flashed a hint of gloom, trying to even the odds. You just said the word, also. Does that mean you're also a traveler? Su Pingan spoke up greatly. That's right. If it had been before, he definitely wouldn't have exposed his biggest secret. But nowadays invincibility is hard to find an opponent for him, not caring at all about the risks associated with the exposure of secrets. Instead, he would have liked someone to create a little pressure on him. Hiss. Tang Shan couldn't help but draw a breath of cold air. It was beyond his knowledge that a second traveler would appear. Were you also summoned back from Earth? Su Pingan once again opened his mouth to inquire. Donaldson foxed for a moment. Obviously, he wasn't summoned by Earth. Rather, it was the systems telling that brought him back. Only, even if he doesn't open his mouth, Su Pingan, however, was able to know the approximate result from his soul fluctuations. It seems you're still a little different from me. For his part, Don Hill asked rhetorically. What's the difference? Su Pingan said. You, the traveler, are too weak. Tang Shan was instantly infuriated. You seek death. At this moment, he intended to strike first. Martial spirit true body. Soul ring technique entanglement. In a flash, the concrete curb of the road, directly cracked open, like an arm-thick vine, drilled out of the soil, directly from Su Pingan's feet. In the blink of an eye, he was bound into a dumpling. As Su Pingan looked at the vines in front of him, he couldn't help but show a trace of oddness on his face. This kind of means of attack, he hadn't seen it in I don't know how many years, not to mention emperor-level powerhouses. Even if the Tian Yuan continent had as many sub-saint-level characters as dogs, whose means of attack were not pinching stars with their hands, breaking rivers and seas with their fingers, and turning the heavens and the earth upside down, not to mention his hallowed emperor realm powerhouse, he asked with some disbelief. Is this your strongest means? Only, that's a face-palming taunt in Don Hill's eyes, all tied up like this by his own blue-silver emperor, and still has the energy to joke with himself. What's that? A taunt? Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut. Tang Shan was shaken, only to see the shadow of a vine appear behind him, and above the vapors, a circle suddenly lit up. Second soul technique, parasitism. Third soul skill, spider web fu beam. The vines that were originally bound to Su Pingan's body suddenly grew as if they had gone crazy. If what was bundled before was just a dumpling, now it was bundled directly into the shape of an egg. Not to mention the silhouettes, not even the slightest bit of light coming through, and the vines were still twisting with increased force. It seemed to churn the creature inside, alive. Humph, hubris and arrogance. How dare you let the blue-silver emperor attack? You'll wait for death next. Tang Shan looked at his masterpiece in front of him and revealed a look of satisfaction. Only, next moment, click, click, shattering sounds, constantly coming out. Immediately after that, only one foot was seen stepping out of the blue and silver emperor. Countless vines, as if subjected to a great force, broke apart in an instant. What? Tang Shan's eyes were huge, as if he had seen something unbelievable. The strength and toughness of the blue-silver emperor is rare in the world, but the other party, just like strolling to break free, simply led him to the blue-silver emperor's power, produced a deep doubt. and in the meantime, Su Pingan, however, could not help but be amused, because, just now, his system mission was finally completed, succeeded in punching downhill in the face. However, not waiting for him to study the system, Tang Shen's attack, on the other hand, strikes here again. Second martial soul, Hao Tian hammer, only to see a huge hammer-shaped weapon, descending from the sky, with a force like 1,000 pounds slamming down. Just, in Tang Shen's eyes, it was enough of an attack to smash everything in this world, but the other party had one finger, against the top of the hammerhead. Let him make whatever power he wants, neither could make the attack advance another half step. This is a martial soul? It's a bit interesting, such a weak body but a powerful soul that can transform into a solid body and attack. And at this moment, Su Pingan seemed as if he was not the one being attacked, but rather a spectator, critiquing his opponent's attack. Tang Shan, after hearing this, completely blown up. Rage plus 10,086. Seek death. Messy cloak and hammer. Chapter 17, He who plagues others will be plagued in return. Tang Shan danced the Haotian hammer in his hand. At this moment, his figure was a swimming dragon, constantly weaving around Su Pingan, and the Haotian hammer in his hand was constantly dancing, hammer after hammer, wrapped in a powerful force and aura. In an instant, the hammer shadows were heavy, smashing towards Su Pingan like a raging storm. The chaotic cloak hammer technique, a total of 81 hammers. The power of each hammer will be superimposed with the help of the power of the previous hammer. I'll see how long you can block it. The shadows of the hammers that filled the sky completely enveloped Su Pingan at this moment. Just, let your opponent attack however he wants. At this moment, that one finger of Su Pingan was the one that took all the attacks. Didn't even move his feet halfway. In the blink of an eye, Tangshan had come to the final hammer. At this moment, Su Pingan, on the contrary, put away his fingers and allowed the other party to smash them. The moment, Tang Shan was literally insulted by 10,000 points in his heart. He roared angrily and smashed the Haotian hammer in his hand directly into the forehead of the other party, aiming to smash the other party into mush. Only, clang, a sound of metal clashing with metal rang out. A rebounding huge force came from the Haotian hammer. It was as if he had smashed into an unshakable mountain of basalt iron gods. Tang Shan was shaken by this huge force to the point that he directly flew backwards. The mouth was even spitting out blood furiously. Of course, what was most difficult for him to accept was that the Haotian hammer in his hand appeared to have cracked lines that kept spreading, and in less than a few moments it even directly turned into a smash. Tang Shan, who had only just stopped spitting out blood, once again spat out a mouthful of blood. The Haotian hammer was his companion martial soul, and although it could be regenerated after being destroyed, it was inevitable that it would suffer a backlash. It's no fun. You're still too weak. And at that moment, Su Pingan's voice sounded once again. Apparently, he hadn't been able to make a move before. It's just testing the other side. In fact, as early as the beginning, Su Pingan had discovered something wrong with Tang Shan. Just didn't jump to conclusions for a while. After when he took a shot at Lu Xiaoyin, in his heart, he had already roughly guessed that the other party, probably like himself, had traveled through other worlds. This naturally gave him a twinge of interest. Therefore, he also intended to try the strength of the other party. It's just a shame. The other guy let himself down. Your ass. If I had come in my original body, how would I have lost to you? At this moment, even though Tang Shan was well recuperated, he finally couldn't hold back and sort out profanities. He is not his true strength now. Many soul techniques could not be performed at all because of their soul power. That's why he didn't feel good about losing it all. So, you don't think that I used all my power, do you? Su Pingan smiled and asked rhetorically. As a great emperor, he had long seen the abnormality in the other party's body. A powerful soul, but nearly dry. That's why, by killing people, they obtain soul power to nourish their own bodies. For this reason, Su Pingan had naturally suppressed his own strength to the same level as his opponent. Only, the difference between the two is still too great. Who is he? The young generation that killed at the same realm was nearly dead. Battling against each other across one or two realms still cuts down the numbers. When he was still in the Sage realm, he was able to fight against an Emperor realm powerhouse who had cut himself in half. 7 in, 7 out with death and no life on the road to immortality. Let's just say, even as a traveler, there are gaps. Tang Shan naturally didn't believe it. However, right now he was not an opponent, so he had to moderate his words. Since we are both travelers, there is no need to fight. We all came back to protect the mother planet. Su Pingan pointed at Lu Xiaoyin and the squad leader. Is this how you protect the mother star? When Tang Shan looked at the two, his words couldn't help but be condescending once again. You should also know that this isn't my true strength. Now that the invasion of the 10,000 races is imminent, only the strong can fight it. Their sacrifice, so that I can regain my strength, is the best protection for Earth. Su Pingan nodded. You do have a point. Seeing that the other party agreed readily, Tang Shan immediately wiped the blood from his mouth. Since you also agree with me, then we can be considered as not fighting. And since we are both travelers, there are many places worth communicating. You wait for me to absorb Lu Xiaoyin, make a date one day and get together. Say it. Donaldson turned around and tried to leave. Wait. Su Pingan suddenly spoke. Tang Shan, who was under the roof and had to bow his head, tried his best to squeeze out a hint of a smile and said, What else? I'm just saying you have a point. Not that you're right to do this. Su Pingan walked to the front of the squad leader and brushed his palm over the other party's body, only to see an inexplicable point of light that landed on the squad leader's body. The originally lifeless squad leader suddenly gasped for air at that moment. Tang Shan gritted his teeth and immediately nodded. Understood. I won't move this Lu Xiaoyin. Su Pingan quietly looked at the other party. It's not just Lu Xiaoyin. It's also the innocents you've killed, as well as the innocents you're going to kill in the future. What? Are you blaming me for killing those people? Tang Shan frowned and said, Those people are just some mole crickets. Could it be that you want to strike out at me for them? You are also like an ant to me. So wouldn't I, too, be able to kill them at will? He who plagues others will be plagued in return. Su Pingan raised his palm and slightly clenched his fist, directly responding to the other party with his actions. At this moment, Tang Shan, like what happened to Lu Xiaoyin before, seemed to be clenched by an invisible pressure, and could not generate the slightest strength. He, who was originally high and mighty, now let out a hiss of pain just like the mortals in his mouth. Su Pingan, have you lost your mind? Striking out at me for a bunch of mortals? You and I are both travelers, the same kind of people. We have a lot in common, don't we? In this moment, Tangshen truly felt the threat of death. Su Pingan said, There is a secret method called soul searching. Everything I want to know can be obtained from you. Tangshan's pupils shook dramatically. In front of death, he finally couldn't help but beg for mercy. Su Pingan, don't forget, we were classmates, love rivals, and chased after Su Li together. Do you not miss any of your old feelings? Hearing this, Su Pingan couldn't help but smile. Did the class president and Lu Xiaoyin say something like that to you back then? Tang Shan's face instantly flushed, and then he became annoyed. I'm not like them. The Mother Star chose me to be a traverser. It must have seen my specialness. I came back to protect the Mother Star from the invasion of the 10,000 races. To kill me is to defy the will of the Mother Star's avenue. You take yourself too seriously. Protecting the home planet is enough for me alone. One more, one less of you. It doesn't matter at all. Su Pingan spoke calmly, his palms constantly gripping lightly, causing the other party to constantly let out a hiss of pain. Deception. Tang Shan let out a mournful roaring sound. You wait for me. I will definitely not let you go. Next moment, around him, a Dao rule actually appeared. Mysterious inscriptions that swam around him. Space was like water at this moment, rippling out. System, it's now or never. Dan Shan suddenly growled and shouted, only to see the space start collapsing all of a sudden. Under the interweaving of runes and the wandering of the Dao, a passageway that looked like an abyss and never bottomed out appeared before him. Immediately after that, his body, then directly went limp. However, a silhouette shaped like him appeared, transforming into a silken thread and rushing directly towards that passageway. It may seem like a long process, but it's just a matter of moments. Let's not react at all. A few moments later, the silhouette appeared in the middle of the sea, with a hint of post-apocalyptic celebration in its eyes. Yes, this person is none other than Tang Shan. At the last minute, the system finally stepped in, opened up the gateway between the home planet and the Soulmaster world, let his soul escape back. Roar! Tang Shan, who had returned, immediately let out a growl. The thought of the humiliation Su Pingan had inflicted on him earlier made him seethe with rage. And after returning to the Soulmaster world, the power that belonged to him, once again returned. Can't wait to run over each other now. Su Pingan, it's not a gentleman who doesn't take this revenge. Next time, I'll make you pay in blood. At this moment, behind his back the dual martial souls were perfectly displayed, and the powerful soul power spread throughout the entire ocean. The surrounding sea beasts, under this power, all let out a wailing sound. But just then, I don't see the need for a next time. A majestic voice resounded over the entire Soulmaster world. Chapter 18 Soulmaster World. God Realm. Soulmaster World. A cloudless, blue sky with a clear blue sky. But in the next moment, with a grandiose voice, after it came out in the middle of the sky, all the living beings in the entire world could not stop trembling. It was as if he was being stared at by a terrifying extraterrestrial beast. Immediately afterward, all the living beings then their unforgettable scene. Only the azure air suddenly cracked open a slit, an immortal waterfall appeared, on which emerged a pair of large hands as white as jade, stretching out their fingertips, cutting through the sky and pointing directly at the ocean. Go back a minute. Above the sea. How dare you follow me here? The moment he heard the other party's voice, Tang Shan knew that it was Su Pingon who had come. He laughed instead of being angry and looked at the sky with a maniacal expression. I was worried about how to go back to find death to avenge. I didn't expect you to make a fool of yourself and send me to the door. The two major martial souls, the Blue-Silver Emperor and the Haotian Hammer, were no longer shadows at this moment, but had turned into substance. Terrifying might erupted from within the two great martial souls. Blinding soul ring rays lit up one after another. Even his body had been covered with a battle armor constructed from soul power. Die. This time, he took the initiative to launch an attack towards the gap in the sky. But the other side reacted faster. One could only see a seven-colored immortal waterfall dropping down from the void, with light raining down and divine haze filling the sky, like the descent of all the immortals, or if many people had ascended. It was too magnificent. And above the immortal waterfall, the other party didn't even appear as a real person. Just a crystal clear palm emerged, and then it was even more so with just one finger. How dare you insult me like that? Do you really think I'm still from the time of Earth? When Tang Shan saw that his opponent still refused to give his full strength, the anger in his heart was practically bursting out. At this moment, the soul power of his entire body gushed out. Isn't that sealed Doluwa Tang Shan? He's the only one in the younger generation who not only has a dual-born martial soul, but also such terrifying soul power fluctuations, worthy of being the strongest sealed Doluwa of all time. What terrifying power! The soul power fluctuations that spread out made all the soul masters in this world feel Tang Shan's power. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but look towards the world-shattering battle in the sky. Boom! Only, the next scene was a shock to all the people of the Soul Master continent. The two are just one shot. Tang Shan's dual martial souls were directly shattered, and the light that bloomed from the soul rings was as dim as a fading meteor. His was even more like an ignited cannonball, smashed into the ocean, not knowing if he would live or die. Downhill defeat. The realm above the Soul Master world, the God realm. Several silhouettes were standing on top of the heavenly abyss, condescendingly watching the scene that was happening in the Soul Master world at this moment. And they are also the Soul Masters, the Zither world, the Photon world, and many other worlds of the most powerful gods. Who is that person? We've never seen such a powerful being in the major worlds under the jurisdiction of the God realm. A man with a terrifying flame aura emanating from his body looked at the palm under the immortal waterfall with shock in his eyes. His power is so different from our world. Beside him, the man who exuded an oceanic aura spoke with grave eyes. Should we make a move? The other party has clearly crossed the line and violated the order we set. A deity who was in charge of killing spoke cynically. Only, at that moment, a man with a terrifyingly destructive aura slowly arrived in front of the heavenly abyss. If you guys want to make a move, don't bring me along. As this person opened his mouth, the other deities revealed a hint of doubt. God King of Destruction. There is actually a time when you don't want to make a move? God King of Destruction. One of the strongest combatants in the divine realm, ranked among the 5 great God Kings, loves destruction, devastation, and anything about the matter gets him interested and involved. His very existence had once brought about a crisis in all of the divine realm, but now the other guy stumbles into this and doesn't want to make a move? It's completely out of character for him. Immediately after that, another God King filled with the breath of life appeared. In him, I felt a powerful breath of life. A surge of that breath of life that I simply can't describe with words. At this moment, the other gods directly froze. This is the God King of Life. No one knows more about the path of life than anyone else. Even she was moved by it. The other gods present seemed to understand how powerful the other party was. See God, didn't you intend to give the inheritance to that Tanshen? If you don't make a move, that Tanshen will be captured by the other side. A Lord God spoke up, looking towards the sea god with a face full of anticipation. Obviously, he wanted the sea god to make a move to test the strength of his opponent. Neptune was instantly in a state of hesitation. But just then, don't make a move to provoke him. A man who exuded both darkness and light, like a Shura, came before the heavenly abyss that observed the major worlds. Shura, you're not sure you can defeat him either? Poseidon looked to the visitor. In the divine realm, those who could be called Shura were naturally the Shura Divine King, one of the 5 divine kings of the divine realm. There were rumors that he was even the strongest of the 5 god kings. If even he wasn't sure, then who else in this world can deal with this being? Just as the gods of the divine realm were discussing it, those giant outstretched hands had grabbed Tang Shan's divine soul and retreated towards the gap. None of the gods came forward to stop them, only to see the other person leave. But, just then, the giant hand suddenly stalled. Next moment, the gods of the divine realm. Then, were dumbfounded. I only saw the immortal waterfall that was originally in the Soulmaster world, suddenly disappeared. When it reappears, it had already arrived over their god realm. Only when the gods, personally saw the immortal waterfall, did they understand how terrifying and shocking this vision was. It was a white pail hanging down from the endless void, shining with a mysterious light. It was as if it was made of the purest energy in heaven and earth, separating two different worlds. On the flying fairy falls, this time it was no longer a palm that appeared. Instead, it was an eye made of pure energy, with no exaggerated visions, just like a normal person, staring at these gods. But that's just it. Instead, they are like a man in the back of their head. I can't even move my body. The good thing was that the other side, there wasn't any hostility. After watching them for a few moments, then he disappeared with the immortal waterfall. Wait until the other side is completely gone. How did he appear in our god realm? The sea god was obviously still a bit unsettled, and looked at the 5 great god kings with a dumbfounded expression. The divine realm was an existence independent of the soul master world. Only existences that had reached the divine level or above would be guided here. No one else can even set foot in it. But the other party just appeared in front of them without any reason, without even disturbing any of the great formations. Poseidon, good thing you listened to Shura. If we don't take a shot at him, we might end up like that Tang Shan. The destruction god king spoke quietly. The gods were united in their opinions at the moment and nodded their heads. Under the stationary gaze of that sight, they were surprised to experience a long-lost sense of death. What kind of existence did that Tang Shan provoke? To the extent that a mere glance can make us not dare to move halfway? Shura looked at the place where the other party had left and couldn't help but feel a pang of fear in his heart. Chapter 19, Shocked Suli. Flying Fairy Falls. It is one of the views on the road to immortality. Rumor has it that if you can see it, you are not far from becoming immortal. Sure, rumors are just rumors. Pingon Su was very vocal about this. He who had entered and exited the path to immortality 7 times had already seen the flying immortal falls many times, and yet, they still can't become immortal. Until finally, Su Pingon directly refined the flying immortal waterfall into his own magic treasure. This is a treasure that can be used across time and space, or even in parallel worlds, even without the presence of a real person. Tangshan's escape. For Su Pingon, it wasn't a surprise. As a traveler, who doesn't have a little something to save their life? Therefore, he will do the same. Allow the other to escape. From there, he used the flying fairy falls, followed the other party's trail, got a glimpse of the Soulmaster world he was traveling through, and incidentally made a move to capture Tang Shan back again. Of course, that divine handiwork, too, is his. He didn't intentionally try to scare the gods of the Soulmaster world, just simply leaving the time, curious to discover the supreme combatant of that parallel world. Of course, the results were disappointing. Those gods are too weak. It's just a frog in the well of a lowly parallel world that presumes to call itself a god. However, Su Pingon had experienced this kind of thing too much, so he didn't take him seriously. Fortunately, the system mission was finally completed, and I was surprised to learn that there were other travelers. It made his curiosity about the planet increase more and more. It's just a shame that Earth's heavenly heartseal has been destroyed. Can't view what the Earth is going through. But Su Pingon was not lost. Although great emperors also had longevity, it had only taken him 1,000 years to become an emperor. More than enough time to understand it all. And the slow process of uncovering might as well be fun. It's almost time to go back. Su Pingon glanced at the sky. Approaching evening. He and Su La had agreed to have dinner together, so it was naturally impossible for him to go back on his word. He glanced at the Tangshan soul, which was still in his hand, and with a casual flick of his hand, he tossed it into his storage realm. Tangshan's soul was captured, and the surroundings, too, returned to their original state in a flash. Lu Xiaoyin and the squad leader were lying in a cramped alleyway. Their previous escape was really nothing more than spinning in place, and beside the duo, Tang Shan was lying peacefully where he was. However, at this time, Tang Shan, just like when he crossed over, had lost his divine soul, just like a vegetable. Su Pingon glanced at the trio and did not intend to clean up the scene. None of them are dead anyway, so naturally, someone will come and take care of the aftermath. With that, he made his way through the alley and out into the crowd. But just then, move over. Several figures, against the flow of people, kept drilling out. It happened to brush shoulders with Su Pingon. One of the men's figures stopped in its tracks, looking toward Su Pingon, who brushed past him. Team Li, why did you stop? Among his peers, curiosity looked at the man. This person, why does he seem familiar? The one who was referred to as Team Li was naturally the National Security Bureau, Captain Li of Jiangchang, who had hurriedly arrived. When you say it like that, I think so. Wait, I know. Doesn't he kind of look like Su Xin? That member of the security bureau, somewhat surprised, said, when you put it that way, it's true. Teen Lee stroked his beard, finally figuring out why it felt familiar. But, he immediately slapped his head. Go go go, do the right thing. That Tang Shan disappeared from the class reunion. Maybe he's already made his move. If you go too late, someone might get killed. When the crowd heard this, they immediately and fiercely rushed to get into the crowd again. And in the meantime, it was not long after Su Pingon left the alleyway. There are phantom energy fluctuations. Should have been ambushed. A man dressed in black, looking at everything around him, his eyes opened with some gravity. Uncle Black, are my two classmates okay? Immediately after, a tall silhouette also slowly walked into the alleyway. The person who came was naturally Su Li, who had come to the appointment. The two of them are fine. However, you have another classmate that may not be fine. Uncle Black stood in front of Tongshen. Tongshen? Why is he here? Su Li was a bit curious. He could understand if Lu Xiaoying and the squad leader were ambushed. After all, the duo had evolved and rich people among them. Naturally, this will lead to some fights. But Tongshen, isn't he just an ordinary guy? Miss, this classmate of yours seems to be a bit uncomplicated. If I'm not mistaken, he should be the murderer who attacked your two classmates. At some point, Uncle Black took out his cell phone and squatted in front of Tang Shan's body as if he was comparing something. A trace of doubt appeared on Su Li's face. Uncle Black, why do you say that? The group has just gotten word from the security bureau that recent evolved serial killer should be your classmate, Tang Shan. Uncle Black handed his cell phone to Su Li. The latter took the cell phone, and on it was none other than the security bureau's wanted notice about Tongshen. Su Li's originally ancient, wave-free, delicate fairy-like face finally appeared to move. Tang Shan's wanted level is ghost level? As the daughter of the divine hidden group, she naturally understands how powerful the ghost level of danger defined by the security bureau is. As long as the other party is overly murderous, it is entirely possible to massacre a city in a single day. This kind of person, even in their group, could belong to the top one. This Tang Shan has fought with the Ox Bureau and got away in one piece. Uncle Black spoke again, completely solidifying the identity of the other party, and according to Neo Bureaucrat's description, this guy is very seasoned in combat experience. If not for the fear of triggering too much trouble, he himself probably wouldn't be a match for him. The Divine Concealment Group, as the dominant consortium in Kyushu, had eyes everywhere, even the security bureau, so know quite a few of the secrets. Then how did he, lying here? The more she knew about Tang Shan's power, the more difficult it was for Su Li to naturally understand how he, a ghost-level existence, could have become like this. If I'm not mistaken, he should have been suppressed by a powerful person. Uncle Black walked back and forth next to Tang Shan's body while looking at the squad leader and Lu Xiaoying. He continued to speak. Miss, your classmates, class president and Lu Xiaoying, have obvious external injuries, yet neither of them are dead, which clearly doesn't fit Tang Shan's style of killing. And on Tang Shan's body, there is also a certain amount of trauma. But this trauma, it seems to be bleeding from a body created by some kind of powerful energy pressure. It's a completely different kind of damage than those two. Unsurprisingly, there should be a fourth person present. Based on the destruction of the surroundings, the other party defeated Tongshen with absolute power, making it too late to commit murder on the two students. Su Li, who had heard the words, frowned but frowned even more tightly. Ghost-level hazards can be suppressed so forcefully? Uncle Black, can you make it this far? The Dark God shook his head very decisively. As the bodyguard of the 1,000-year-old daughter of the Shin-In group, naturally, they were the best of the evolvers, and were all top 10 experts within the group. If he can't even do it, and who the hell did that? Su Li's eyes revealed a trace of gravity. Next moment, she seemed to have remembered something. I remember that Pingon Su was heading in this direction before. Uncle Black frowned and said, Miss, you suspect that it was Su Pingon who made the move? Chapter 20, The Security Bureau's Cluelessness. Divine disaster? How could it be him? Su Li revealed a look of incredulity, and then, explained, I was just wondering if he would have suffered from Tang Shan's poisonous hand as well. The two of them, they have always had their differences. In her heart, Su Pingon was a man who pursued her. Of course, the other person has a little bit of excellence, sparkle, and whichever bit of adolescent fluttering affection is in there, but it definitely couldn't be him, especially, since he had suffered a loss on him today and had yet to recover. Subconsciously, it wouldn't allow the other party, a powerful person who might even look up to him. Uncle Black couldn't help but freeze, obviously not understanding the brain circuits of the young lady. He laughed bitterly. Miss, this Su Pingon, are you having trouble with him today? However, we don't have time to think about others now. This strong man, Maybe he hasn't left yet. It's too dangerous to stay here. Let's retreat first. Forget it. Just go back and send him a message. Su Li made her plans, so she did not continue to waste time on Su Pingan. Turning around, he and Uncle Black left the scene in a hurry. But the two left shortly after. Team Li found them. They're here. The security service came to the door. Tang Shan is even here? With the arrival of Team Li, the crowd examines the scene and immediately spots their target. One staff member, upon seeing Tanshen, instantly exclaimed in shock. Everyone couldn't help but subconsciously tense their nerves. Look with the voice. However, it's good to know that all anyone saw was a laying downhill on the ground. He's dead? Team Li looked at the other side with a somewhat dulled gaze. Several staff members, at once, looked at me and I looked at you. None of them dared to go up to investigate the other's body. After all, that was a ghost-level existence. Useless guys. You guys go investigate the remaining two. Captain Li finally summoned up the courage to come over to Tang Shan's body and scrutinized it. A few moments later, he's not dead. He came to the conclusion. The security bureau people who heard the words were like enemies. An undead ghost realm powerhouse. If he exploded, they really weren't sure they could defeat the other party. Team Li gave the crowd a breathless blank look and continued without a good mood. Although he didn't die, it seems that he was seriously injured and lost consciousness. Chief, what did you say? Tang Shan was seriously injured? A member of the team stared in disbelief, obviously a little disbelieving. Team Li was obviously having trouble believing it as well. But Don Hill is just lying here for real, especially on the body, which was obviously traumatized. Just then, someone's waking up. A member of the team suddenly spoke up. The crowd followed the voice. It was a woman who was slowly sitting up. It's Lu Xiaoyin, someone from Bodhi Jin, who has a case on file with our security bureau. A member of the team revealed his identity. The security bureau has a rule that evolvers are on record. Of course, some evolved people with evil intentions naturally wouldn't file. But it's natural for a big group to come out and not go against it. You were attacked by Tanshen? Team Li rushed over to her and began to ask questions. Lu Xiaoyin was obviously a bit confused. However, after all, they were evolved, physically tough where they were, and soon began to understand the current situation. After a few exchanges between the two parties, Tanshen, you say, was attacked? Lu Xiaoyin said with 10,000 astonishment. Team Li realized the key point of the other party's answer. What? Did you not see the person who took a shot at Tanshen? No. Lu Xiaoyin shook her head. That Tanshen is too strong. I'm not its opponent at all. I didn't even have a chance to make a move before I lost consciousness. Team Li couldn't help but frown. Lu Xiaoyin couldn't help but ask. Who the hell is it that could attack Tang Shan like this? This guy is of all the evolvers I've seen. I'm afraid he should be the most powerful. Team Li, who heard this, couldn't help but laugh bitterly. If anything, when he saw Tang Shan lying on the ground before, he was still doubting the other party's strength and exaggerating. But now, even the members of the Bodhi Jin could lament the other party's power. This basically concludes that Tanshen is an existence that meets the definition of ghost as a dangerous level of existence. We don't know yet. Naturally, Team Li wanted to know the answer to that question. He stood up and surveyed his surroundings. You know, the danger level of Tanshen is such that it can destroy a city. What can be amazing is that the surroundings, basically, are not overly damaged. And that only proves one thing. The man who beat Don Hill, the strength was far above him. Tang Shan was defeated without even having the chance to fight back. To do this, how strong was the person who struck out? To be able to easily defeat a ghost-level danger, could it be that his strength is dragon level? But can a dragon level powerhouse ghost level so easily? Team Li's eyes showed a hint of doubt. A battle between a ghost class powerhouse and a dragon class powerhouse. It's not like it hasn't happened before, but that battlefield, all of them were as devastated as if they had been smashed by a meteorite. Where is it as well preserved as this? Could it be that? Be god level? God level existences. It is said to be the higher-ups, for those foreign races that have not yet descended from beyond the realm. How could there be a god-level existence on our Earth? Team Li shuddered at the thought. What a godly presence, according to the disaster setting, that's capable of destroying stars. However, Team Li felt that the more they thought about it, the more ridiculous it became. Simply shook his head directly, not bothering to continue guessing. This kind of thing is not something I can access anymore. Everyone pack up the scene. Get back in line. Old Lu, you lead the team back next. I'll personally go and report this matter to the top. After arranging all things, Team Li left the scene in a hurry at once. The sun is setting in the west. There was a sound of a door opening. Brother, you're finally back. A childish voice came all the way through the door. Su Lu, sit down and eat for me. Immediately afterward, A voice filled with the aura of a youthful teenager rang out with a disgruntled tone. Su-Xin. Su-Lu. The visitor gave the names of the two men. Naturally, it was Su Pingon. Brother, sit here right for dinner. Su-Lu sat in his own children's chair, looking as if he wanted to stand but didn't dare to, but pointed excitedly with his hand to the spot beside him. Su-Xin, on the other hand, was sitting at the dining table, but her eyes were looking at Su Pingon in a very unfriendly manner. With the latter's 1,000-year-old face, he naturally wouldn't care about the other's eyes. Settling down beside Su-Lu. Brother, eat quickly. This is the meal my sister made. It's delicious. Su-Lu, true to his name, was happy as a living treasure, driving the atmosphere. Su Pingon had wanted to open his mouth and compliment the meal a few times as well. But, next moment, Su-Xin, the older sister, then said in a bad mood, Su-Lu, no talking while eating, forget it? Su-Lu shrugged his shoulders and immediately took the initiative to admit his mistake. Sorry sister. The words Su Pingon had wanted to say to his mouth were also blocked. It seems that this sister of his, or do not want to care about himself but just then, Su-Li's cell phone rang. The latter glanced at the incoming call and hastily picked up the phone. After the person on the other end of the phone initiated the conversation and finished, Su-Xin's eyes instantly bulged. Unable to suppress his excitement, the target of the ghost-level disaster was captured? Who captured it? Chapter 21 Su-Xin, my brother is the mysterious man who suppressed Tangshan? As soon as Su-Xin finished his words, she then realized she had a liability on her side. Immediately, taking his cell phone, he walked to his room without eating. After Su-Xin left, Su-Lu then couldn't wait to speak. Brother, did you have fun going out today? Pingon Su, not funny. You're lying. It's not funny. Why are you home so late? Su-Li's eyes darted around as if to say again that you're the one who can't fool me. As Su Pingon ate, he replied, something happened, so I'm a little late. Although the great emperor had long since been able to dispel the grain, but for his sister's cooking, he couldn't help but want to try it. What is it? Su-Lu, the chatterbox, was clearly curious about anything and everything. Perhaps for his sister's millennium of indebtedness, Su Pingon didn't feel impatient, but instead explained very patiently. There was a conflict between classmates and a brawl, and then I couldn't see past it and stepped in to stop it. So, Niani, you fought with others too? Su-Lu became more and more interested when he heard this kind of story. So was your classmate good? Did you beat him, brother? Su Pingon thought for a moment and said, it's a bit powerful. However, he is not my opponent. I knew my brother was the best. Su-Lu, who heard this result, was filled with giggles. At this point, Su-Xin finished her call and returned to the dinner table. Su-Lu saw his sister arrive, and immediately, with a look of excitement, shared the hot news he had just heard. Sister, did you know? Brother, at the party today, fought with a classmate, and he even won the fight. Su Pingon, who had heard the words, couldn't help but sweat for a while. I clearly said stop. How come in your case, it's a fight? You're afraid that I'm not bad enough for your sister, aren't you? Fruity. Su-Xin instantly glared fiercely at Su Pingon. But, a few moments later, as if Su-Xin had made some sort of decision, she finally couldn't help but speak. Do you have time tomorrow? Su Pingon was a bit surprised that the other party took the initiative to look for himself. Yes. Su-Xin was a bit embarrassed. Tomorrow happens to be the start of Su-Li's school year, and I have an important matter tomorrow. Su Pingon immediately understood the other party's thoughts and took the initiative to say, I will send Su-Lu to school tomorrow. It's rare to have a good opportunity to get closer to your sister. Naturally, he wouldn't miss it. Su-Xin nodded. Since you want to stay here, then rely on it. Su Pingon was somewhat speechless, and wanted to explain that he hadn't fought at all. Su-Xin, however, didn't give him a chance at all, turning around and returning to her room. The big pink bear, the walls, and even the sheets are pink in the room. Above one wall, various photographs were hung. The photos, on the other hand, are mostly of various murder scenes, and associated lines. It's just a completely different picture from the pink and powder room. Under this wall, there was a table. Su-Xin is sitting peacefully at the table. It was clearly laid out with all the information about Tangshan. That's right. Su-Xin is none other than a member of the Security Bureau, and those messages, naturally, were the first to be sent by the Bureau. The main reason she was able to take care of her parents in a coma and her brother missing, and with a sister in tow, it is because the state gives generous salaries and benefits to the employees of the Security Bureau who struggle on the front line. Accordingly, she naturally needs to perform some dangerous tasks. However, it was a good thing that the seniors of the Security Bureau, knowing her situation, took great care of her. so they mostly let him carry out some low-risk tasks or deal with investigating some cases. Take for example the case at hand in Tangshan. Granted, Don Hill is the murderer. However, the mysterious person who had defeated Tangshan was nowhere to be seen until now. In order to give an account to the top, it is natural to need to write an investigation report up. And the task, naturally, fell to her. Our Jiang Chang, there's even an existence that can suppress a powerhouse like Tangshan? Looking at the information, the depiction of Tangshan's strength, Su Xian felt more and more that the other party was powerful, but it was such a powerful presence. It's amazing that you can be crushed with absolute strength. That's what's so unbelievable. It's just that it's undoubtedly a pipe dream to try to find such a person out. But the good thing is, it's a symbolic task. Just write a survey process. Tangshan's methods of execution never leave anyone alive. But in this case, there were 2 survivors at the same time, and all bear injuries of varying degrees. So it can be concluded that Tangshan did want to kill the 2 survivors, but interrupted the execution for special reasons. As for special reasons, Su Xian, on the other hand, thoughtfully labeled the document, "The mysterious man who suppressed Tangshan." The investigation report, naturally, could not be so little explained. She continued to write, "Anyone who does any action carries with him a purpose. Mystic purpose. 2 conclusions can be drawn at this time, based on the above. 1. With a grudge against Tangshan. 2. Trying to save the survivors." Su Xian flipped through the recent movements of Tangshan. It was established that the other side, basically, had never left River City, and was in a coma for a year. The most recent active time was just a couple months ago. The probability of inviting the mystic is very, very low. And, assuming that the mysterious man had a grudge against Tangshan, then how could he not kill him? She took this pulled data, pasted it into a report, and ended with a conclusion. 30% probability that the mysterious man has a grudge against Tangshan. The target then came to the second possibility. Mystic wants to save the survivors. In that case, there are also 2 possibilities, a passerby and an acquaintance of the survivor. Passing through is, for sure, unlikely. Tangshan deliberately dragged people into the illusion and chose an alleyway. How can you pass by so coincidentally? Even if they were passing by, such a strong person wouldn't necessarily care about such idle matters. The probability is too low. And then there was one possibility left. That would be an acquaintance of the 2 survivors. The first thing you can rule out is a loved one, because after they had administered the aid, they would surely have stayed at the scene and could not have just left the survivor on the side of the road. Continuing to reason, it would only be a friend. The range of friends just got bigger. Su Xian pulled up all of Tangshan's connections from inside his computer. She didn't go rummaging around first, though. Instead, the situation was analyzed in context. The mystery man, who struck just before the other side struck. Then isn't it possible that the mystery man knew all 3 men and thought it was just for fun, but didn't realize it was going to result in a death before he chose to strike? If that's the case, then Mystique, Tangshan, and the survivors, at least stayed together? And most likely, it was some sort of social event that came up. Su Xian couldn't help but have a hint of excitement on his face after coming to this conclusion. Because the only social event Don Hill has ever attended is a class reunion. That means the mystery man could be one of the people at the reunion? With that range one narrowed, Su Xian instantly tapped the keyboard quickly. In a few moments, a list of all the people at this class reunion in Tangshan was made. Then, one by one, they were observed. There weren't a lot of personnel. It's only about 20 people. Su Xian had read most of it in almost half a minute. However, just as she was about to look at all the data, she was suddenly dumbfounded. Because, one of the names in there was familiar. And so familiar that, simply too familiar to be familiar. Su Pingan, he actually went to school with Tangshan, and attended a class reunion together? Chapter 22, System Mutiny. How could Su Pingan be a classmate of Tangshan's, and together at the reunion? How is this such a coincidence? Su Xian, who had viewed this news, had eyes full of disbelief. He watched it over and over again to make sure the information wasn't wrong. But, let it be investigated however it may be. This is the truth. Not necessarily him. A class reunion in Tangshan, with over 30 people? Can't be that coincidental? And he's the mystery man. Su Xian didn't know whether she was making excuses for herself or for Su Pingan. However, soon, her mind couldn't help but recall her sister Su Xian's words. My brother got into a fight with a classmate at a party today, and he won. Fighting. And won the fight. The fight. Could this be a reference to fighting downhill? As for winning the fight, naturally, he defeated Don Hill. If that's the case, it seems like everything will come full circle. Is it really him? Su Xian had to target, once again, to be Su Pingan. soon. However, she shook her head. No way. How could she be the mystery man? The other party is a ghost-level hazard, an existence that can be easily suppressed. Her mind could not help but conjure up Su Pinggan's appearance, though born with a clean cut and very dusty temperament. This sells, although it does look like a hermit high priest. What was I thinking? Su Xian patted her rosy cheeks. Subsequently, her mind, then, could not help but recall Su Pinggan's dilemma from childhood until that year when he ran away from home, when he had a big fight with his parents. That capricious appearance. After thinking about this, well, doesn't look like it. Su Xian nodded in satisfaction. Immediately afterward, she extinguished the thought that the mysterious man was Su Pinggan. However, this is not enough. She took the second half of the investigation report and tore it all up, unable to let the direction of the mysterious man's speculations lead to Su Pinggan's body. If not, someone from above might come to investigate him. This was not good for Su Pinggan. Although this guy, back in the day, did them wrong, but she certainly wouldn't put Su Pinggan in danger just like that. With that, he makes a summary where the first conclusion that he has a grudge against Tangshan. The probability of being a downhill hater is 80%. 100% is a bit much. 80% is enough to shift the point of view of the man above, in the direction of being a downhill hater. After this is done, only then was she satisfied and stowed the report away. However, it was already late at night. Su Xian finally laid down on the bed, ready to rest. However, she couldn't help but think of Su Pinggan. This guy, though, did some pretty irresponsible things back in the day. But, actually, except for that one-time thing, Su Pinggan was still a responsible big brother. They will also help themselves out if something happens. In particular, when I was a child, I was once pranked and tricked into getting lost in the middle of a deserted house that was rumored to be haunted. No one dares to go and find themselves out. In the end, only Su Pinggan, alone, rushed into the haunted house, hand in hand, pulling himself out of the dark deserted house, step by step. At that time, she knew that Su Pinggan was also scared. The hand that held his own was shaking, and yet he was still comforting himself all the time. As soon as she thought of this, Su Xian hugged the pink bear on the bed tightly, her face revealing the color of a long-lost little girl's happiness. Soon, though, she then tossed the pink bear right aside. This guy, leaving for a year without a word. It's impossible to just forgive her. Unless, although evolvers were powerful, they were still human beings, and under his rambling thoughts, Su Xian had also fallen asleep without realizing it. The next day, early morning, Su Xian then left early and headed towards the security bureau. Su Pinggan, on the other hand, had delivered Su Xian safely to the school not long after the former had left, sort of completing his sister's mission. And next, naturally, it's time to lighten up on the harvest. First thing to deal with, naturally, it was the Tangshan soul that was captured from the Soul Master world. Although the other party, in the Soul Master world, was the strongest sealed Dolua other than God. The soul was also much more powerful than an ordinary person of the same realm. Much more powerful. However, in front of Su Pinggan, it was not enough. At this moment, his soul was like a lamb to the slaughter. Under Su Pinggan's great emperor's secret technique, all secrets were revealed. Just, after Su Pinggan searched his soul, he did not find anything worth his interest. However, it did yield a bit of useful information. Tangshan's crossing, and his own, seemed to be two different types of crossing. He was soul crossing, the soul of Earth, coming to the world of the Soul Masters, boarding a body that was supposed to be dead. Instead, he had taken his body and traveled to the Tianyuan continent. This is why, on Earth, Tangshan is so weak. He was only the return of his soul, his powerful body strength, all of which remained in his body in the Soul Master world. This weakness, of course, I'm afraid would have to be broken if the Earth Security Agency were to learn of it. That even this state of Tangshan has them on the ropes. If Su Pinggan hadn't stepped in, this Tangshan was afraid that for the next period of time, he would still be recovering his strength at an exponential rate. At that time, not to mention the Security Bureau, I'm afraid that all the evolved people in the world would not necessarily be his opponent. Su Pinggan, on the other hand, was the one who, together with his own body, broke the barrier of parallel worlds and directly descended into this world. Self-strength, not affected in any way. Sure, even if Tangshan regained his full strength and descended to Earth, would not be a match for Su Pinggan. Next, it's you. After the soul search ended, Su Pinggan's eyes suddenly flashed with a divine light. Raising his hand and pointing at the soul, countless great Tao orders, transformed into chains, rushed directly into the other party's soul. Buzz! The space could not stop trembling. An inexplicable and limitless divine light directly rose up to the sky, and countless galaxies and galaxies continued to burst out amidst the divine light. But the next moment, Su Pinggan's other hand was slightly raised, and the trembling of the entire space came to an abrupt end. The divine light was also extinguished in an instant, and once again the wind and waves were calm. Everything that happens goes unnoticed. Next, Su Pinggan's joint index and middle fingers gave a slight tug. The Tangshan soul then began to tremble violently in pain. One could only see a radiant to the extreme haze being drawn out under the chains of the Great Tao Order. The moment the latter appeared, he wanted to scramble away and escape. Only, Su Pinggan's goal was it. How could you let it escape? In an instant, the other was pinched at his fingertips. And this haze is also the very system that is necessary for travelers. Only, it belongs to Tangshan. Different traveler, different system. This thing, sure is more interesting than I thought. Su Pinggan's eyes were like torches as he probed into the most innate secrets of this system. But, just then, the mutation was sudden. It was only the system within Su Pinggan's body that actually took the initiative to manifest itself. And then they rushed towards the haze transformed by the Tangshan system. In an instant, the light melted. The two, in this moment, unexpectedly, fused together. Chapter 23, Second Aura Recovery. Sister kidnapped? The Great Emperor's rage. Seeing this, Su Pinggan's eyes were slightly dumbfounded. Then he studied it with interest. In the meantime, River City, Subdirectorate of the National Security Agency, Team Lee's office. Here's the mystic investigation report I wrote yesterday. Su Xian handed over the report he had written last night, carefully. At the same time, the mind boggles at the thought of the other person not finding out about the problems she reported. Team Lee just opened the report and glanced at it before he spoke up and asked, based on Tangshan's social profile, can you guess who the mystery man is? No. Su Xian opened his mouth with a calm expression on the surface, but his heart had long been thumping because of the lie. In fact, if she guessed that reasoning of Su Pinggan, definitely gets the Bureau's attention. So now she could only pray that the leaders would not find out about the problems she had reported. Apparently she was overthinking it though. Team Lee, who heard her answer, didn't even finish reading the report, so he just threw it aside and directly spat. Also, a strong person like that, who can just casually check out through the information casually, would have been discovered long ago. When Su Xian heard this, he naturally nodded his head in response. Thereupon, it was even more hastily wanting to withdraw than Team Lee. Nothing, I'll go to work first? What's the rush? Didn't I tell you yesterday that something was up? Team Lee raised an eyebrow and called off the other team. Isn't the thing you're talking about what happened in Tangshan? Su Xian was a bit curious. Team Lee shrugged and said, the Tangshan thing, it's over, and the next sweep will be buttressed by someone from above. This case of Tangshan, the people involved behind the scenes, has exceeded the authority of their precinct to deal with. With that, he lifted his watch and glanced at the time. As for what I said, it's not that I'm looking for you, but someone else. Su Xian followed the conversation and asked, who was that? Me. Just then, the door to Team Lee's office was slowly pushed open. Only a man, about 30 years old, walked inside the door of the room. The man was very tall, especially the muscles on his body, which were like bulging mountains of sinew. Speak of the devil. Upon seeing the visitor, Captain Lee immediately rose to greet him with a smile. The two men exchanged pleasantries for a few moments. Team Lee also became a throwaway. Since the person is here, there's no need for me to introduce her. You can talk to her yourself. I'll withdraw. After saying this, Team Lee voluntarily gave up his office and left the area, thoughtfully locking the door. The man then introduced himself as he looked at Su Xian. My name is Zhang Lei. It's the National Security Bureau, a member of Team 1. Su Xian had wanted to have an opening to introduce himself as well. However, she soon reacted and said with some surprise, you're a member of the National Security Directorate, Team 1? The other nodded. After receiving an affirmative answer, Su Xian froze a bit. The National Security Directorate, as the name implies, is the headquarters of all security bureaus, in the country of Kyushu, where there are some of the most powerful evolvers in the country, and among them, the best. It's the National Security Directorate, the most famous team, that's joining the team of the strongest of the country's evolvers. The strongest of the country's evolvers. Rumor has it that a single member of the team is capable of dealing with a ghost-level disaster on their own. Zhang Lei, Zhang Lei. Su Xian recited the other party's name, and then his face lit up with joy as he immediately said, you are the stone god? God is a bit of an overstatement. Zhang Lei, a big man, obviously did not expect that he would be recognized so quickly, but smiled and humbled himself. Hello, I'm Su Xian from the Jiangchun branch. My ability is. Su Xian then remembered to introduce herself. MS. Su Xian. You don't need to be introduced. I came here this time, apart from the Tangshan matter, just to specifically look for you. I've already read all the information. Zhang Lei waved his hand, signaling the other party that there was no need to be formal. Ha, what can I do for you? Su Xian clearly didn't understand that he, a branch evolutionary, would be talked to alone by the other party. Zhang Lei directly opened the door and said, I have the intention to have you join our team. Ha, let me join the first team? Su Xian opened her mouth in surprise. Not a team. Exactly. But a new team we're about to form. Su Xian had the word confused written all over his face. Zhang Lei did know that it was impossible to make it so clear in a few words. Instead, he found a chair and sat on it as the other man made an unbearable noise, and then inquired, if I remember correctly, you should have become an evolutionary on the day of the aura recovery, right? Su Xian nodded. That's right. I've already explained this one to the organization. According to our findings, humans who become evolved on the day of the first spiritual resurgence will have very great potential. And not surprisingly, a second evolution will be forthcoming with the arrival of the second aura revival. Its evolved strength can even exceed the strength of existing powerhouses. Zhang Lei continued to explain. At this time, Su Xian was unable to resist asking a question. A second aura recovery? What does that mean? Zhang Lei said. Literally, the Earth will soon see a second aura recovery. And the changes that will happen to the Earth then will be far more exaggerated than the first. Not only may the size of the planet change, but everywhere in the world, unusual forbidden areas will appear. These forbidden zones, that is, they are dangers as well as opportunities. Those 10,000 races that invaded from outside the domain also came for this very purpose. Apparently, Su Xian, who had suddenly learned of this news, was a bit stunned. However, soon, she couldn't help but ask, then why did you pick me? On the day of the first aura recovery, there were quite a few awakened evolvers, right? It's true that there are quite a few, but not many. Even I only awakened on the second day. And, of all the evolvers on that day, you were also the most special. Zhang Lei held up the stool that seemed like it was about to break at any moment and explained. Our headquarters has the blood of all the branch evolvers, and your blood, in our investigation, is ranked number 1 in terms of potential. That is to say, when you evolve for the second time, your strength may even surpass mine. Of course, on top of that, when you first evolved, you gained special abilities, right? And that's the effect of the special active factor of the human body. When the aura is revived for the second time, your active factor will also be ignited again, even opening up the treasures of your physical body and acquiring even more special abilities. Su Xian obviously still had a lot of questions as she continued. What did you mean when you said you were joining your newly organized team, NSA Team 1, a team designed to deal with conflicts between the country's evolvers? So he has his own mission. And the new team we're organizing is the team that's looking for evolutionary opportunities. According to the mission then, it's that one might go to explore the major forbidden zones, striving to become stronger in order to have the courage to protect the country in the future chaotic world. After Zhang Lei finished saying this, the chair was also finally unable to support himself and shattered with a loud bang. He got up a bit awkwardly, then looked at Su Xian and said, how about it? Want to join our team? However, Su Xian hesitated for just a moment before shaking her head. I don't want to join. Zhang Lei was obviously a bit surprised. It was important to know that none of the members who had organized this new team and invited it had refused to join the team after hearing the news. After all, after becoming an evolved person and enjoying all sorts of specials, who wouldn't want to improve themselves even further? This is the primal quest of life, Zhang Lei said with some reluctance. Su Xian, you have to remember our team, but the whole country, and even the whole world, can be called the top team. If you miss it, you will never have this opportunity again. And a little news can be revealed to you. Our team has now gathered not only the top powerhouses of today, there are also the 10,000 races from outside the domain. Su Xian froze. Extraterrestrial 10,000 races? Zhang Lei nodded. The current form of the Earth is far more complicated than we imagined. Most of the 10,000 races outside the domain, who want to get their hands on the Earth's chances, do so with malicious intent, but there is also a small portion of races, with good intentions, who, although they don't come with the strength to traverse the field, are able to cooperate with us and share the chances through other means. At this moment, Su Xian, after hearing all of this, the entire worldview, it seems, shattered. Seeing this, Zhang Lei was satisfied and said, how about it? Do you want to join now? Only, Su Xian still hesitated for a moment before, gritting his teeth, he said, no joining. It was Zhang Lei's turn to be dumbfounded. Why are you still not joining? Su Xian paused and explained, I became an evolutionary. Just wanting to make my family's life better and have more time to take care of them. Now, I'm already satisfied. Zheng Lei froze. Su Xian's family situation naturally investigated and understood her thoughts. He was about to open his mouth, but closed it. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "Don't be in a hurry to refuse. I'll give you a day to think about it. By then, you'll be giving me an answer." After all was said and done, without delay, he turned and left the office. Although Su Xian was a little reluctant, she also understood that she had a family to take care of. If she were to join that team, not only would she not be able to return home often, but she was afraid that there was a risk of falling at any time. She had joined the security bureau with the intention of doing it for her family. So naturally, she could not have sacrificed her roots for the sake of her family. Just as Su Xian organized his thoughts. When you are ready to leave, it's bad. Su Xian, something happened to your sister. A female team member, anxiously, entered the office.